I know, but it's just.
Listen, babe. Oh, yeah. It's alright, alright, alright. Listen, babe. Oh, yeah. It's alright, alright, alright. It's alright, alright, alright. Listen, babe. Oh, yeah. 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 It's alright.
So this is going to be another fun class, and this is probably the last class in this rhythm. We're going to start this next month, October, introducing scaling. So I'm excited about this class back. I'm excited about what's going on, but we're going to have a good time this evening. Got a lot of stuff to cover, but before we get started, Lady Estille, that's her new name just for today. Shakina has an announcement from the other Lady Estille about a Steele event. So Shakina, you want to make an announcement real quick? Okay, just for a second, y'all. Those of you at home, I know you're pins and needles. You can't wait to hear what she has to say. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Go ahead.
Hey guys, if you guys should have gotten an email from Cassandra letting you guys know that the location for the 510 hangout is changing. Because of everyone's interest, we have over 60 people that have RSVP'd, so we're going to be switching it to the Pinpoint location. Our address is attached in the email, but in case you missed it, it's going to be 5044 Woodminster Lane. It's going to be happening on Saturday, I believe it's the 4th or the 5th at 6 p.m. until. It will be an indoor and outdoor event to accommodate for everybody that is coming. There will be food and drinks available. I believe there's a few people chipping in to provide that, so big ups for that. And then I wanted to talk to you guys about parking. So we have a private parking lot. We will have half of the lot sectioned off where it will be available for parking. I believe there's about 10 to 12 spaces on our side. And then on the opposite side of our building, next to the hardware store, they said that they would leave that parking open. So I would suggest, because there's going to be 60 people, if you can carpool, that's going to be great if you're planning on coming later in the evening. There is also residential parking, but again, if you're coming later in the evening, we just want to make sure to be conscious and aware that we're not eating up all of the parking spaces. And also, of course, if you can Uber or Lyft, that's going to be a great option as well. But there will be 2 private parking lots that you can take advantage of. So yeah, just wanted to say that. And if you have any questions, feel free to DM Cassandra or me or lovely Kaja, and we look forward to seeing you guys.
All right. So if y'all can, try to Uber. What is that sound, Josh? Huh? Is that a phone? Oh, okay. That's a... Jesus Christ. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so Uber if you can, y'all. It's always better if you can, but if you're too far away or you have to drive from Sacramento, that's just a little bit too much to be Ubering. But if you're close by, if you're close by, try to Uber so you can save space for those who have to drive a long distance or who have a reason they can't Uber. But for the most part, try to Uber if possible. So yeah, that's a great announcement. I'm excited about this party too. We're gonna, you know, I plan on supporting. I'm supporting the party. I love the fact that Cassandra wanted to take time to get together with her peers, and she took initiative on her own. I think that was amazing of her. She didn't wait for somebody to, you know, if I didn't do it or Court didn't do it or Josh didn't do it. Josh doesn't do anything. But if he didn't do it, us 3 didn't do it, then at the end of the day, some people, I mean, this is about 5-6 years ago, people would say, hey, when are we going to do something? And they would act like they can do it themselves. Or, hey, can you help me meet the other students in class? And like, just meet them, right? But just to hear that somebody actually took the initiative to start the process is really, really cool. Second thing I want to announce real quick, let me turn my phone off because I'm about to talk about Shekinah. I'm doing the same damn thing. But second thing is that I want to announce is I recently announced online that the movie Woman King is a must, not musty, okay, Josh, but must see, absolute must see. It's probably the blackest film I've ever seen. It's in my top 3 favorite movies of all time because it's the blackest film I've ever seen, but it's also well did, or well done. It is. The acting is superb. The story writing is well done. I have seen some people who feel some kind of way about the movie because they said the original tribe, if you want to know the truth about something, participated in the slave trade or selling slaves to the European. Can we stop that? That form of thinking is very, extremely elementary and tribal. If you look at history, period, none of it's pretty. I think we romanticize history based upon our current romanticism of today, and we don't see people for who they really are. 2, we realize that for you to try to interpret things and not have context or not even be there, it's kind of a stretch. Number 3 is when you come in the power of your own group, you start to drive the mythologies or the narratives of your own community, you change the story to shape the narrative of how to move forward. I challenge anybody that wants to play cultural Puritans and say, it's not the truth. I challenge anybody to take time and understand the science of cultural narratives. Like, nobody's going to tell the full story of the Founding Fathers. If I wanted to, or there's a way to, I'm sure I could find some information from the Founding Fathers that can absolutely disrupt everything that everybody believes in. But you got to understand that the narrative they built currently shapes the way everybody currently sees why this country runs the way this country runs. Like, the world runs on narratives. And so, because the world runs on narratives, what's so powerful is when you start to shape your own narrative, the impact is crazy. Another thing that somebody said was, oh, white people are financing it, or they're behind the scenes. What does that mean? Like, we're implying that every white person in the world is working to spend millions of dollars to distort our past, to oppress us, as if they're going to trump our complex adaptive system that does it already. So what you just argued with me is that somebody's going to spend millions of dollars to bring sand to the beach. What kind of incentive is that? So it's just these assumptions and this poor form of thinking and adopting these popular talking points. Just do me a favor, think. But when I can honestly say, if you go to this movie and you see it, I've never seen black women highlighted this way before. I've never seen black power displayed like this. It's almost like if the Black Panther had more depth and substance and strength and power, more realness to it. This movie is just so damn good from front to back. And somebody say, oh, I hate to see black on black violence. I'm sorry. Did you ever see Game of Thrones? Was white on white violence? Did you ever see? That's what the world was made of. You ever seen a martial art movie when there's Asian on Asian violence? That's the world that they're highlighting an era in time with the way culture worked. And so a lot of times we have these interpretations that it shouldn't be this way, it should be that way. It's because we're thinking within this really small scope of the way our world works. And really the way the world works is some made up story in our head. It's not linked to the way the world has worked, or is going to work, or is currently working. It's a story that's running in our head that's often stimulated and developed via social media. So just stay away from that chatter. Also, I realize too, like a lot of ignorance have always been here, but because we have social media now, ignorance has a home, and it has a tribe. So let's say there was 10 ignorant people in East Oakland, 2 in West Oakland, 4 in North Oakland, 20 in Berkeley, 30 in San Francisco, another 20 in Walnut Creek. Now, that doesn't even equal 1% of the population. That's not even like 0.01%. That's not even 0.0001%. But when they all get online together, they sound like a community. And then all it takes is a reporter or somebody go, the community says they don't like, the community has a problem with the woman king, and all of a sudden you find now this voice that should have had no attention at all is getting attention. There was even somebody saying we should boycott. Like, if you want a film to be real, then please don't ever watch Superfly again. Please don't watch any black gangster movie that's ever come up in the last 10 years. Don't watch any movie about hip hop culture. Don't watch matter of fact, don't watch TV at all if you want shit to be factful. Right? It's really, the purpose of television is driving narratives. And this narrative that they drove was absolutely, extremely fucking, I've never seen a narrative in my lifetime. Now I'm about to be 55 next week. I've never seen a narrative in my amount of years of being here that is this black, ever. Like when I first saw Django and Jamie Foxx shot the white woman, I thought, oh, I ain't never seen that before. This movie makes Jamie Foxx movie, it's like 5 or 10 notches above that. So very, very powerful movie, amazing movie. I'm telling you folks, look, and the diversity of people who love this movie is crazy. But it's the blackest, strongest, most powerful African film I've ever seen in my life, ever. Better than Spooks That Sat by the Door, better than Five on the Black Hand Side. It's better than the movies in the 70s, the black exploitations that had these strong black messages that were, by the way, supported by the Jewish community. But they were, if we go back and watch those movies, they had very strong black messaging. But by far, amazing, fucking amazing. And I'll get into while later on in the next class, or maybe 2 classes out, I'm gonna get into why saying white people are behind it is an instinct distortion. It's more or less a distortion of how the world works. And it's important because I'm gonna tie it back to business and show you how, and what I notice is that when people have a poor perception of how things are created, those same people have layers in front of them when it comes time for them to create. So when somebody says, oh, this one guy told me, oh, white people paid to create propaganda to destroy the black race. I would argue it's very, very different. What he suggested, and in his argument, what he was trying to suggest overall, that white people are so organized that they're structuring all these different systems that are equally collaborating to produce this symphony of execution of a perfect strategy. Anybody ever see a large company before? Anybody ever seen shit? That shit doesn't happen. When you build anything large, ain't nothing that fucking perfect. The more you diversify people, the more shit gets split, right? Now, is there popular racist narratives that create racist behavior? Yes. Has there been racist attacks on certain things that we've done? Yeah. For example, COINTELPRO was white people trying to suppress possibly black people who can rise up in a very fragile capitalistic system that could challenge that system. Now, we were victimized by that, but there was a reason they had to focus on us, because the FBI focus was, we're trying to build capitalism at the time, because the most America hadn't really brought into it. And here's this group rising amongst us who has every reason to be pissed off with us. So that's a reason that you're gonna pull a certain type of attention in your direction. But a lot of the shit they did to us was them just serving themselves, and they stepping on us in the interest of serving themselves. Or they just didn't give a fuck about us. And I'm not sure that was ever a requirement anyway. So, but there's a complexity of reasons. Racism didn't always have the same causation. It's had different causations that spent up into something that felt very racist to us. And so you have to see those different causations, because you can see some things are organic, some things are accidental, some things are just kind of like a coincidence of these complexities coming together, and some things are planned. But to assume that all this shit was perfectly planned will give you a false sense of how systems work. And then when it's time for you to build your own system, you'll start having an expectation that things will just work a certain kind of way, when that's just not how it works. Going back to last week, we talked about probability. That was the purpose of explaining our probability, is that a lot of our ways of thinking is so working class, because it's built upon these ideas of, if I do A, then there could be B, and then I do B, there's C, then I do C, I do D. But what randomness says is that may be the path plan, that may be the rational progression, but there's this thing called randomness and human interactions and emotions that could change the degree of what is required for B to follow A, and for C to follow B. And what's necessary in order for us to get from A to D is awareness that things are randomly and dynamically changing, and that there's a need for human engagement and navigation to get it from A to B to C to D, right? But in our minds, if we try to plan for A, B, C, D, and it falls off at B, we assume that either some superpower working against us, we're ignorant, you told me a lie, but not realizing that to get from A to B required human engagement, decision-making, planning, and a little bit of luck. And so once you understand how complex life is, it allows you then to see the proper patterns to extract to build what you want to build. But if you simplify life too much to fit these nice little sexy narrative of the evil white people trying to kill black people, you are disqualifying yourself to build in the same world you exist in, because you're simplifying the systems you need to understand to create within. So that's the danger of some of this extreme racial ideas that we're lobbing up into the public, is we're dumbing down our knowledge of how the world we live in works. So I also released a group of podcasts, and I'm gonna try to talk like I'm 55 today, so I'm just gonna slow down a little bit. But I released a group of podcasts, and I'm sure some of you guys took Excedrin or beer, aspirin, or Tylenol when you listen to the podcast. Some of y'all said, I don't speak this language, what the hell is this? And some of y'all found this exciting as fuck. And I knew that was gonna be the case. Oh, wait a minute, y'all. Marquita has just entered our building. Marquita has just entered the building. Josh, put your stuff away. She's here. Anyway, point is this. So how you doing, Marquita? So the podcast I released, I want you guys to see mature probability thinking at work. I plan on getting many of you to that space where not only can you understand that, you're starting to think in that rhythm. But I want to highlight one thing from the 3 podcasts. And on these podcasts, I would suggest you listen to them more than once, because your brain probably got snagged on something that somebody said, and you missed the next 5 points, right? Because that's how strong they were. I purposely released the type of podcast I listen to all the time. And you can see the difference between those kind of podcasts and maybe like a Tony Robbins style podcast, right? Ain't no inspiration there. It's insight, exploration, and discovery that's occurring, right? And it's processing new ideas and challenging popular ideas. But there was something that, I don't know if you guys, did you guys, anybody listen to Nassim Taleb? Okay, you did. Oh shit, wait a minute, did the youngest person in the room raise his hand? Wait a minute, I just want to acknowledge the youngest person in the room listen to Nassim Taleb. And Nassim Taleb said something that was beyond amazing. He talked about religion. This is so dope. All right, let me start here. So, Scott, who works for me, came to me the other day and said, Nana, what do you think about a business having a 10-year plan, a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 100-year plan? I said, well, got 2 sides to that response. He said, what? I said, there's no such thing as a 100-year plan. He said, but I thought some people have 100-year plans. I said, no, you have a 100-year vision. And you can have a 100-year analysis, which allows you to organize your thoughts. But you can't have a 100-year plan. It's not possible. If you go back 100 years ago, they can nowhere near imagine, come into any kind of level of imagination where we are today. And the reason you can't have a 100-year plan, because there's too much randomness happening. There's too much uncertainty. There's too much data you would not be able to put into your calculation to even have a 100-year plan. But what a 100-year plan does for an individual, it allows you to think 100 years forward, which allows you to organize your thoughts and organize your relationship to your resources. But there is no possible way to have a 100-year plan. He said, well, then how do you maintain a long-term society? I said, well, quiet as is kept. Long-term societies are not driven by planning. They're driven by narratives, values, and certain principles that are echoed through mythologies, through storytelling, and through religion. And I said, Nassim Taleb, which is in that podcast, he was asked, Nassim, what do you think about religion? Now, Nassim Taleb is one of my favorite. He's hard to listen to. Like, I promise you, don't listen to Nassim Taleb with any distractions in the room, because you won't get it. I promise you, because he's just like, because he's always like, what he talks, what he says like this. But if you just listen to what he's saying, it's fucking amazing. So he asked Nassim Taleb, this is a game changer. I'm gonna restate this game changer because it's so powerful what he said. They said, Nassim, what do you think about religion? And hopefully Pastor Chris has tapped in on this one, because this is amazing. And Nassim Taleb said, I don't know if he said, was religion good or bad, or what do you think about religion? And he said, I don't think we have the rationale to understand religion. He said, what do you mean? The number one goal of all, wait a minute, that was Umar Johnson. The number one goal, to say it 3 times, Umar Johnson be killing me. The number one goal of any business, any person, any human, is to stay alive. If you don't stay alive, none of this shit matters. Number one goal is stay alive. Current day generation, when we think about stuff, we wrap things into rationality. Now, there's this phrase that says, rationality is like a suitcase. You can squeeze anything in that shit, right? But the number one goal is to stay alive. And if you look at religion's role in keeping the human race alive, maybe our rationalization is not strong enough to understand the value of religion. If religion has played a major role of keeping society stable and keeping human beings alive, hear this out. Maybe your analysis is a shortcoming. If we think about it, if religion didn't exist and we're not here, are we valuing religion incorrectly? Are we thinking about things in a very short-term sense? We don't understand how we're in this modern day culture who's viewing the world through the lenses of right versus wrong, good versus bad, and fairness. Not realizing that there's these complex systems in place that keeps us moving forward and being able to innovate on that principle of moving forward. As we start to unravel certain things, some things need to stay in place for human beings to stay stable. When I looked at East Oakland last week, I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, hey, I think the downfall of Christianity is killing East Oakland. Somebody looked at me and said, what do you mean the downfall of Christianity is killing East Oakland? Because these thugs have nobody above them. They're becoming God in their own minds, meaning I'm also taking lives as a God. Okay. You all seen that thing that went viral where the cat brought food to his kids, but didn't bring food for the other kids? And there were certain people, I promise you, I almost became East Oakland. There were certain people who said, but they ain't his kids. That's a godless nation. That's a godless nation talking. A healthy, godly nation would never sit and let another kid not have when their kid can have. Just ain't gonna happen. But in a godly nation, we become narcissistic, egotistical, selfish. We almost become all the sins. And mind you, I'm not even a religious dude like that. But I've always also defended religion left and right. And when Nassim said, we have a tendency to view things in life based upon what makes us feel good and not looking at the span of our existence. There's certain things in us that are part of our survival DNA. Like when we have sex or we choose our sexual partner, we're thinking about offspring. There's a reason we choose certain features and certain characteristics and certain qualities. We're not choosing that because the hottest video with the big booty girl. No, we're looking at certain features represent fertility, the possibility to have safe offspring. We're looking at for a certain type of mindset, so you could be a safe partner with me in parenting this child for our future offspring. And then here comes somebody, non-binary. No offense. That's cool if you want to believe whatever you want to believe. You can believe you're a butterfly. Right, Shakina? But even in accepting that you're not, if you think that's what you are, you have to understand that we are in a world of staying alive. If you just add the principle of staying alive into your equation, you realize a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, it feels like we're in an immature pop culture trying to redesign life to fit its TV mindset. Not taking consideration that peace is fragile. Stability is fragile. Your home right now, living in that neighborhood, and the legal system that surrounds you is fragile. Everything that you want in life is fragile. And so there's certain things we have to put in place to continue the progression. And the reality is that America is not guaranteed to be a level 4 nation in the future. And Africa is not guaranteed to be a level 1 nation or level 2 nation in the future. Things are always going to change. It doesn't even matter if your people came from Africa, from a beautiful kingdom. There's no law in the universe that says that they will evolve and stay and become a beautiful people in the future. The principles say that good can become bad and bad can become good. It can keep flopping and flipping and flopping and whatever. But the value that religion has is it becomes a parent when we leave our parents. It becomes that regulator, it becomes that negotiator, it becomes that tool that allows us to say, let's humble ourselves to a higher narrative. But we gotten to the point that we think our narrative is more important than God's narrative. Uh-oh, that's like Chris, huh? That came close to sound like Chris. That's not Chris. Don't get out my mouth. But what is this? Pause. But it just yeah, whatever. Oh, y'all, see, now I'm back. I'm back. So I know, but pause. It came back. So point is this, and so we're at this point now. We're leaning too much on our own understanding, and our understanding is limited. And watching the woman king and how people are trying to project the way it should, and what's appropriate, and trying to articulate good versus bad, and all that stuff is such a distortion of understanding the bigger picture, which is, did they survive? Maybe they're right. Sometimes something could have happened that we could say, that was wrong. Did they survive? Debatable. I mean, y'all, because sometimes I think we praise strength as a powerful tool. The most powerful tool is survival over strength. You can't be strong if you're dead. He said, what that comedian says? He says, you can't be strong if you're unconscious. I don't know if you ever see the mother and the ghetto couple, and the husband always says to his kid, he always makes it like you can't be happy if you're unconscious. He just makes everything tied to you if you're unconscious. But you can't achieve anything if you're dead. And I think black folks, we don't realize, and I was telling somebody the other day, it seems like the people who believe in diversity are the least diverse people I ever met. Because if you don't believe what they believe, then they don't want to fuck with you. That's not very diverse to me. And it seems to me that we're just really starting to copy the system that oppressed us and just change the face of it and think it's okay because now we do it. But in not realizing that if we stay down these paths, we will become them. Like, have you ever noticed like how the left becomes the right and the right becomes the left? How they just flip-flop, but they think they're different because they change the words around it? All right, I'm gonna get off that politics shit. But just real quick, just side note, this is why when I tell people, just be careful talking about people's religion. Even grandma, who was holy roller, no pants wearing Christianity, coaching an old Baptist when they used to start off with that hymn, you can come up and complain about all the stuff you see is flawed in that system, as human beings always do, historically. But you're here, ain't you? Your grandmother got you here. And so sometimes as you guys go talk to your parents and people around you that played a role in your existence, show more respect. Show more respect. Stop assuming that you're so smart now. A lot of these old black folks from the sharecroppers, show respect. They got you here. But you guys have gotten too, don't get so smart you become stupid as shit. Because you got to look at culture from a broader lens. Your lens is too fucking narrow. You don't got caught up in these little small lenses and think that you got some higher understanding because really you felt low before you got the knowledge. So now the knowledge gives you a false sense of strength. And so now you become judgmental and you're disrespecting all the things around you, not realizing that if you remove this one thing, it might seem dirty when you remove it, but you don't want that to replace it. What will replace it? You had no idea was coming because you didn't understand the scope of human existence. So I thought that was just brilliant when Nassim brought that up. I thought that shit was brilliant. But many of y'all probably missed it when you argue the value of religion. And even say, there's another argument that says, the difference between Christianity and Islam, it's going to disappear over time. Christianity's like this, Islam's like, it's going to, just keep watching human history. And you start seeing, slowly but surely, they become similar. Because right now, Islam is more like a law. Christianity is more like a circular system. But over time, you're going to start to see that even balance off differently. Because you'll see Christianity here, you might see Christianity, say, in Europe is different than Christianity in South America. But slowly but surely, as the cultures grow and evolve economically, they start to look very similar. So a lot of times when we're judging diversity of religion, we also got to take into consideration diversity of lifestyles, resources, and where they live. And so there's more similarities in these ideas. So even if you're not another man's religion, who are you to tell them that religion is flawed? It's just not. That's such. That's like a baby trying to judge the world. That's what you are, a baby trying to judge the world. Christianity got us here. Islam got some other people here. Buddhism got some other people. I mean, not Buddhism, but Hinduism got some other people here. And when you go around saying, that don't make sense and I disagree with that, you have your preference of how you want to seek out God. I solely believe that's beautiful. Now you say, now why is this important? If you can't read human history, you can't understand the trajectory of human culture, then you won't know where to invest your money or what's happening around you. You'll pretty much you'll always follow you'll always follow the investment trends because you can't see cultural movement because you're looking at culture through a cartoon's lens. So why am I talking about religion in that context? First of all, men seek out religion. Atheists have religion. They do. But what we're missing, so are you the one from San Francisco? Yeah. What's up, family? Yeah. I met her online in San Francisco. Hey, her energy, hey, you remind me, like, I feel like when I see you and the way you talk to me, it's like family. So just good seeing you. You got family energy all through you. But so what I'm suggesting is that religion, mythologies, narratives are the foundation that holds culture together. Be careful. Just so be careful unraveling those things. You know, my last point. So I talked to a lot of my staff members who they go and work for Pastor Chris on Sundays. Now, my staff members are a mix of religion, from Jewish to I don't know what Josiah is. Josiah, like, he follows sandwiches. But anyway, they follow something. They just all into something, right? And by the way, he's not here, so if he's listening, I'm getting in with all my jokes because he can't say nothing back to me. Anyway, but there's a mixture of beliefs. But they go sit with Pastor Chris every Sunday, and they're all fans. They didn't go there to be a fan. They went there to do a job. But they said his impact, his inspiration, his leadership, his emotional alignment is insane. His storytelling, his narratives are insane. Who are you to come along and say, well, he didn't say this right, so let's just let's throw out the baby in the bathwater? How many lives do you damage if Pastor Chris goes away because you didn't like what he said that one day? You see where I'm going with this? Life is complex. Stop playing this pop culture. When I say pop culture, like, you know, I tie it down to Madonna and pop band. Stop you playing pop culture analysis of society and the world and realize life is complex, man. It's complex. Go ahead, Shabisha.
Is there a connection to the removal of religion? Let's say the East Oakland example with like the deterioration of the church and how that could have impact on that, to when Rory was talking about how we change incentives, and that if people, like if you raise the ceiling too high where now you can't see it,
Mm-hmm.
or you give people too much choice,
Mm-hmm.
then now you ruin the relationship, and so now it's like it backfires.
Yeah, I mean, removing religion and creating all these abstract people control mechanisms, they're becoming, the ceiling's too high, right? Religion, and pastors have done a wonderful job. Not all of them. Some of them, you know, we all have stories of that pastor, right? But they've done a wonderful job of translating complex ideas in simple ways to give people hope. You remove religion, you take away human hopes. The human animal, when you remove a human animal's hope, he's the most dangerous animal on earth. 2, the earth doesn't need humans. We can die off all tomorrow, and the earth will regenerate us within millions of years. Another version of us. It'll generate it again. So our ego's so damn big, we think it's all about me or about you, when we're lucky to share this life with this earth. So a lot of times in religion, we don't realize that they're doing a lot of they're holding together the social structure that we all communicate with. that we agree. And doesn't mean, once again, I'm not trying to make them all perfect. That's not the argument. The problem is that you're seeking perfection. That's the argument. Anytime human beings are on this, there's not a system that human beings are part of that's perfect. There's none. There's none. Matter of fact, what's so funny, those who judge are not perfect. He without sin cast the first stone. That's what this modern day culture does. It casts stones. When I saw the response to the woman king and all these folks was getting upset with it, I'm thinking, can I analyze your life, please? So I can tell you to shut the fuck up. Like, the power of this narrative is amazing. But it's like, well, but this happened. We're not understanding that when these type of things happen, we're not taking into consideration this level of like nitpicking perfection. Those individuals have a level of narcissism and ego that's insane. They're judging from a virtual space of perfection, because in reality they're not perfect. And so we gotta start get real with ourselves and get real with the world around us. It's like if you see a person that smells bad one day, it shouldn't be a conversation, because there's been days you smell bad. But if you point everybody's flawed every time, do you realize that you're scared to see yourself one day? I think she said in the film, the only person she's ever been hiding from is herself. And this is kind of what happens. We start to hide from ourselves. Because we're so judgmental, we have no room for us to show up. So part of that is it's like I said, it's just, I think we have to start rethinking the value of religion. And I watched religion, so I was born in 1967. You just have to do that. I don't know, make me sound hella cool. I was born in 1967. And so I went through the 70s and 80s, and I'm talking about low crime. I'm talking about walking through every neighborhood in East Oakland, Eastmont Mall popping. I'm hanging out at Eastmont Mall. I think I was 13 or 14, practicing getting at girls, just for practice, right? That's what you do back then. That's all you just, hey. And I try to get at all the grown women so I could get my game strong for the young girls when I get back to school. It just some theory. It was silly kid theory. And I remember walking home, no stress in the world. I remember riding my bike from here to West Oakland and back, no stress in the world. And there was certain small neighborhoods, but like the big dope dealers controlled that. But what held a lot of culture together was we had like this respect thing going on. How you doing, ma'am? How you doing, sir? We had these cultural standards that was actually driven by religion. We didn't realize it was, but it was. Even the way we were supposed to show up to each other was driven by religion. And then I watched the pro-black movement in the 90s start to tear that stuff down. And then the liberal culture, I don't know about this. This is stupid. See, this is contradiction. Goddamn Catholics raping kids. Weak-ass pastors. Right? And now I look at the kids today, no sense of elder respect. None. Doesn't even know it exists. Hierarchy doesn't process their mind. Sir, ma'am. I'm telling you, sir, ma'am, for fuck you. I'm out here living like you. Right? Like the other Josh said earlier, he's like, I don't know about calling somebody a boss. It's like, I used to feel that way too because I was part of that generation. But why is somebody who don't know what the shit they doing calling you anything else? Like, where's your humility to learn from the person above you? Right? But it's like we've gotten to the point where we've broken down all these structures and systems because we call them stupid by our own understanding, and now we're in the wild, wild west. And cats not giving a fuck. When I remember when New York did the pull over everybody, like they stop you and frisk you for weapons, right? Crime dropped. Remember New York went 2 or 3 years with no homicides? What happened before that? It was stop and frisk. It was pulling everybody over. Okay, so California, we said don't pull people over. It's just so racist. Oh my God, so racist. Oh gosh, racist. Now you want cops to be on the reactionary side to stop crime? Life ain't pretty, y'all. I'm sorry, it just ain't pretty. Some shit gonna be fucked up. But you gotta ask, life is a trade-off. It's trade-offs. The question is, which one do you want? And my thing is, I'm saying is that it requires deeper thinking. I don't have the answer in this conversation. I'm saying, I'm throwing examples out there to say, you got to think broader, and you got to think deeper, and you got to have more complex understanding of how the complexity of peace to have these conversations, not good versus bad, right versus wrong, fairness. That's just not the premise I think about culture. You can't. Culture is hella complex. Hella complex. If any of you guys were able to get into a ship right now and go back 100 years, it will fuck up your brain. And it'll fuck up your feet too. The shoes 100 years ago hurt your motherfucking feet. Like, we have no idea. The other day, my son's working out with me. He's like, ooh, my calluses. Yeah, I had that response. I ain't gonna do it right now because y'all know how I get down. So if you move that motherfucking weight, cut that shit out. I'm gonna hit just one more point, then I'm gonna jump into this. So I was listening to, what's that dude that used to play with Washington, the basketball point guard from Washington, was hella tight. Huh? Yeah, Gilbert Arenas. So I talked to Gilbert Arenas about, he was on Vlad TV. And I like Vlad with people I like. Like Lil Boosie, he's my cousin, he's my hood cousin I love to death. I don't give a shit. He has real hood logic. It's like a southern hood logic that I grew up around, so I like it. I don't give shit. I don't give shit if he's wrong sometimes. That shit's just like, that's my family talking to me, so I enjoy listening to Lil Boosie in the Vlad interview. So I saw Gilbert Arenas, and he asked him about some athlete was about to participate in sports, and they bowed out because of mental health problems. And he asked Gilbert Arenas, what do you think about mental health in sports? And Gilbert Arenas said, well, back in my days, that shit's considered soft. Stay with me, because I know somebody like, nah. And good, bad, social justice, I'm about to turn you and cancel you right now. Connie's with my credit card, I'm about to end this shit. Okay, stay with me. He said, back in the days, you gotta remember that you're dealing with not alpha males, but apex males. And because we're playing sports against each other, weakness, your enemy and your competitor is looking for your weakness to conquer you. And they can find that weakness to go and take you down. He said Isaiah Thomas was playing basketball one year, and somebody told him, fuck you. And Isaiah ran into the crowd, and he said, bad idea, Isaiah. He knew from that point on, everywhere you go, they'll be saying, fuck you. Every fan will go out there with to tell him, fuck you, because they know that gets to you, right? And that means you're going to lose games. He said when the Clippers went into the bubble, and Paul George said, I don't really want to be in a bubble. And Beverly was like, I'm not feeling, Patrick Beverly said, I don't really feel in the bubble. He said, yeah, we knew they were not going to win. Because that weakness showed these are areas other people can exploit. He said Gary Payton was playing against Lamar Odom, and he started talking about his mama. But he didn't know that Lamar Odom's mother really died just that week before. And of course, Lamar wanted to talk to him, so Gary Payton's like, yo, because Gary Payton, that's how he talks bad about everybody on the court, because that's part of his defensive play. So he's like, yo, have him come over and talk to me. I don't give a shit. But I guess he didn't come, so the agents got together and said, hey, his mother actually died last week. So Gary Payton called him to say, hey, man, I'm sorry. He said, Gilbert Arenas said, but if that had happened to Kevin Garnett wouldn't even call him. And next game, he would have been talking about his mom again. You say, damn. When apex animals, and you forget you live in a world of apex animals, you gotta understand that there's different levels of animals in this world. They don't play by the rules, they play to win. And if they find a weakness, they come forward. The reason me and him show this strength that you guys be like, oh, you're playing the machismo, it's not machismo. We're in a world that people, our employees, our customers, our competition are looking for weaknesses to exploit. And it costs a lot of money when those weaknesses are exploited. And so you have to be able to hold up. If you delay pushing back on something, bringing up something, or terminating somebody, that could be thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars. So you have to be strong enough to say, when somebody come for you, in negotiation, I may get you so emotional that I know no one can debate really well when you're emotional. When you're emotional, you're gonna your brain's going to short. You're going to lose history context. You're going to lose ability to control your responses, your ability to process information, the ability. You're going to just be what they call emojicon. There's a word for that. But you're emojing. I think the word is emoji. You just start speaking from a space of emotion, but you'll think it's rational, and I will take you down so bad. And I can say something just slightly racist, or something sexist, or homo. I be like this, like, listen here, sweetie. And as soon as I say that shit, you be like, this motherfucker did not call me sweetie. You lost. I'm about to take all your money. You're about to be broke by the end of this meeting, right? You got to be strong to handle those kind of battles, because those will come. Nobody's coming into your office to play social justice when they're coming for your money. And so what he's trying to highlight is that soft shit, going back to my son with, oh, my calluses. If you don't get your bitch ass in here and train, okay. And what my point was this, I was telling them that when we go to the gym, I don't train your body, I train your mind. Your calluses hurt? Do it again. Calluses hurt? Do it again. Are they bleeding? Keep going. Why? Because at the first set of pain, you collapse, you're not prepared to compete with other apex animals. You have to train your mind to engage apex level animals because they are out there. If you don't learn to engage them, you will oppress yourself. I didn't say they will oppress you. You will oppress yourself. So Big Baby said something real smart there. He said, fuck your swag. I mean, Kevin Garnett told Big Baby, fuck your swag. Now, Big Baby was Kevin Garnett's fan. He loved Kevin Garnett. When he came on the team, he was like, oh my God, I get a chance to play with him. Like, that's somebody it's like if somebody loves Jordan and your first year drafted, you get to play and start with Jordan. You're like, oh my God. But Big Baby was also a real hood kid. So he told Big Baby, fuck your swag, because Big Baby did a shot and he said something like, count it. But he wasn't thinking that Garnett was guarding him. He just said, count it. And he's like, oh, motherfuckers like that with your bitch ass? And he's like, no, I was just Kevin. I was just, hitting a shot, and I was just saying, count it. It wasn't about you. And he said, what you want to do something? You think you tight now? He goes, no, it's just my swag. He said, man, fuck your swag. And then Big Baby said, wait a minute, nah. I've been in prison. Now, Cat talked to me like this. If worst case scenario, I have to close my eyes and swing, because I ain't no way in the world. I'm from the hood. So he said, man, fuck your swag. And Kevin said, okay, youngster, I see you, respect. That's an apex animal communication. Soft males don't talk like that. Soft males are in the office filling out reports, talking about they've been bullied. Right? That's a big difference. But apex behavior is leadership requirement from women in men / woman king. That's why I love that shit. It was showing women, yeah, you guys are apex animals too. Cut that shit out, believing that it's just a man thing. Them women were bad as a motherfucker, but guess what? Those are true stories about powerful as women kingdoms. Queen Yas Santiwa, my daughter's name Nzinga Ada Nti, after Queen Nzinga of Angola, Queen Candace of Ethiopia. These were apex women who did not fuck around. But a lot of times we got caught in this soft-ass society that now apex is toxic. Most motherfuckers who run shit are in apex battles. All right, y'all. So I want to fuck with y'all some manly shit, some real shit, some adult shit, some grown shit, some real shit, some lively stuff, some godly stuff. See, I changed his words. I saw the shit when I got to the godly. I did that.
Pastor
Anyway,
Chris said, preach.
Tell him, no, bro. Nah, you the master, bro. You the master. By the way, Pastor Chris, keep doing a great job. The feedback I'm getting from you and the way the community's talking about your work, it's infectious, and you're impacting people of different belief systems equally on the same level. So that says a lot about the way he's showing up. He's not so religiously buried. He doesn't reach the soul of the people that's in his church, where you've seen religion do that sometimes. They get so into their cultish way of thinking or their tribal way of thinking, they miss the innocent people in the crowd. And so for him to be having impact on a diversity of people that are coming back to me that have less in common, but have very common things to say about what he's doing. So that's a good type. All right, let's get into this factfulness. By the way, this is a beautiful picture. Danielle always finds these most gorgeous, enormous pictures. I don't know who shot this picture, but that's a beautiful picture. Talk So this week we're going to talk about the generalization instinct. I love this one. We're going to flow kind of fast because I got some things to talk about at the end. And then I also want to open it up for some questions because hopefully you guys have been kind of processing probability through the week and realize how it changes a lot of the things you think about. But we'll come back to that close to the end. So you ready to get down, Shabisha? You need to stretch or anything like that? Need to run around the school? Because I heard you run really fast now. So just, I'm just saying you got the right shoes on. Okay, all right, let's go. Let's do this.
Everyone automatically categorizes and generalizes all the time. Unconsciously. It is not a question of being prejudiced or enlightened. Categories are absolutely necessary for us to function. They give structure to our thoughts. Imagine if we saw every item and every scenario as truly unique. We would not even have a language to describe the world around us.
So we say things like black people, white people, Chinese people, East Oakland, New York, Africa, Asia, Vietnamese, Filipino. We see these terms, right? And there's just ways for us to communicate. It's the shortcuts for us for communication, but there is also a weakness in that form of communication. This is a common mistake, and this is right. By the way, this is going to be marketing. It's going to deal with marketing and social justice at the same time. This is marketing at its core. Keep going.
The necessary and useful instinct to generalize, like all the other instincts in this book, can also distort our worldview.
Mm-hmm.
It can make us mistakenly group together things or people or countries that are actually very different.
Mm-hmm.
It can make us assume everything or everyone in one category is similar.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, most unfortunate of all, it can make us jump to conclusions about a whole category based on a few or even just one unusual example.
So look at that concept two ways. When you start to assume that all these people are similar based upon small sample sizes, all Christians, all white people, all black people, all Asian people, all whatever, that in itself gives you a very distorted perception of the market you're trying to serve as a business. It also can create internal fears or stories and narratives that you run in your head that has nothing to do with the people you are engaging or impacting or the way the world really, really works, right? Even in social justice, people of color or LGBTQ+, we use those terms, but when you actually, if you ever go to meet somebody in that community, don't assume those generalizations, right? If you say black people, we all know there ain't no just one. Anybody black know there ain't no one kind of black people. Go to your Thanksgiving, your family Thanksgiving, you already know it's hella complex, right? But often when we talk about black people, and even at the Thanksgiving dinner, we'll say black people, black people, black people, black people, and we assume these terms. And that's cool in conversation, but you have to know when to accept an idea and when to turn it off. And when it comes time to build something in society or make a decision in this society, you have to use a different system. But in just cool conversation, I may say black people this all the time, but when it comes time for them to process and build a system, I realize I gotta stop, slow down, realize, okay, which black people you're talking about. So like somebody told me one day, hey, let's do this project. And I said, well, black folks from Bayview and black from East Oakland, they have a lot of similarities, they have a lot of differences. And if you don't know those differences, that small difference can change the way a model works when you get to that community. So you can have a perfect formula, a behavior or a business formula or a process to engage with your community. And if you can't see the subtlety and differences, that same process that could have caused positive responses can produce negative responses. Let's keep going.
Once again, the media is the instinct's friend. Misleading generalizations and stereotypes act as a kind of shorthand for the media, providing quick and easy ways to communicate. Here are just a few examples from today's newspaper. Rural life, middle class, supermom, gang member.
Doesn't mean anything. The young man, so Josh was before class, he's like the owner of the Phoenix basketball team did this, and people are saying this, and how do you feel about this, and this? And I said, Josh, you said nothing to me. He looked at me strange. I said, because the media is reporting and they're generalizing. The people, I don't know how many people you're talking about. Who are these people? And I don't know I have no context. I don't even know what happened before he said what he said. Was he saying the N-word okay this week and the next week it wasn't okay? I don't know, right? So you want me to assume and just line with a popular idea. You want me to not to turn my thinking off and then try to act like I'm thinking as I take the tribal talking points and then process those points to give my rendition or my interpretation of those points, as opposed to saying, fuck the tribal talking points. Those talking points are not valid points. Okay, so keep going.
When many people become aware of a problematic generalization, it is called a stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
Most commonly, people talk about race and gender stereotyping. These cause many very important problems, but they are not the only problems caused by wrong generalizations.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong generalizations are mind blockers for all kinds of understanding.
That's the key word right there, mind blockers. So let's go back to marketing. I'm gonna jump back and forth between marketing and just personal examples. When you're trying to analyze a market, you can't ivory tower process people. You gotta get into the community you seek to sell your products into and hear the voices and the beliefs and the movement of the people you seek to serve. If you don't analyze people close enough, then you're gonna really you're actually analyzing your generalizations of people, not people themselves. And you'll be projecting narratives on the people. Oh, he a hillbilly. See, that's why. Now, mind you, it comes from a good space, too. Because let's say Shabisha went down to a hillbilly event and they slashed her tires. We would say, I told you she went to that event. She knew what was up, right? That's when the generalization, we've used it in the past, but it's also our limitation. Because let's say she go to a hillbilly event and she ends up becoming a vendor and making millions of dollars. We will never know that because our generalization keeps us from even going to the event. Now, the last time the event was negative was 1962, Tuskegee. And in 2022, we're like, I'm still not going. Huge opportunities wide open for us to exploit, but we won't exploit it. And come to find out the people that are down there are the children, are the grandchildren of the people who were super racist, and they were raised on hip hop culture. And if you told them that Meek Mills was coming to town, they would spend thousands of dollars to see him. Pack the place out. But you won't even go there because in 1922, they was riding on us. You see the difference? Now, we're going to get into something that's called destiny instinct, which I'm not going to get to that. I'm going to cross the two. But we use these discriminative approaches for safety, but after a while, they destroy our thinking. Let's keep going.
The gap instinct divides the world into us and them, and the generalization instinct makes us think of them as all the same.
So real quick, Woman King, white people are financing it. They're all the same? All white people think the same, move the same, have the same agenda? They all get on the phone every night and just download how they need to respond to black people when they see them next time? They listen to hip hop, but somehow they all going to have this. No, they don't. They don't. Why is that important? Let me tell you how it backfires on you. You're at a big convention and you walk in there and everybody's white, right? That's my daughter's Spanish way of saying white, wajite. And my daughter, I don't know where, my daughter and my wife, they're comedians together. Anyway, so you get there, you will feel an instant disconnect, become intimidated, and almost even leave early because you feel you don't fit. You won't take your idea and even receive a healthy no that can make you better. Because no sometimes make you better. Somebody might say no, and you say why, and as I explain what the no is, you gain insights on how to improve your innovation. And you get enough no's, it will help you perfect your products and services. And those no's may come from people that don't look like you. But if you already have a preconceived us versus them type of approach, you can't hear the feedback they give you because you're like, they can't relate to me. I'm a black woman, and this is a white man. Who the fuck is he think he talking to? You don't know how to extract the value for yourself. You got to realize that that these ideas that you're embracing is creating walls that you're stuck behind, not that they're keeping you out anymore. You got so used to being on the outside, you don't even go in no more. Let's keep going.
Are you working for a commercial company on level 4? There's a great risk you're missing the majority of your potential consumers and producers because of your generalizations.
So you're at level 4, meaning that you're making money. You're like in a big corporation. And you're making these assumptions about the market. Are you going out there and talking to the people? And a lot of times in these larger companies, companies that are performing at a high level, are you making a large income? You start getting used to generalization because it's working. But when it stops working, you have no clue. You don't even see how, or you don't know how to expand because you're literally building your whole business model on generalization. And sometimes you even have to go all the way up to the CEO. So it's important, even on a corporate level, at any level, go talk to people, go see people. So like Kaja, you have a new product, right? Go where the people at. Find out where the people are and navigate that and go hang out with the people. Don't get so busy you get stuck in your business, you stop seeing people. You may justify, oh, I'm busy, that's why I'm stuck here, but your busyness is disconnecting you from your marketing. Go ahead.
Are you working in finance in a big bank? There's a great risk you are investing your clients' money in the wrong places because you're bundling together people who are vastly different.
Clear. Keep going. So by the way, y'all say when they give away money to black people, all these nonprofits, they do it to us all the time. Oh yeah, I want to help this community, so we're going to do this. Because I spoke to this one person, I promise, this is exactly, and Shabisha's been there. I spoke to this one person, and they said, because this person has a loud voice. So now we have a new policy that we're going to spend millions of dollars on to have this impact, and we're not realizing that there's so many variations. So a college-educated black person is very different than a poor black person. They have different incentives, different motivations, and different ways of showing up to the world around them, right? So a lot of times, a lot of people who are talking about this social justice are really the college-educated blacks. We don't know the social justice conversation for poor blacks. Different agendas, different motivation, different conversation, different problems, and different solutions. But yet what we're doing is that we're allowing the elite to speak about the poor. So often when the money comes in, it almost misses the poor because it's coming from the voices and the minds and the considerations of the elite.
It sounds like really obvious when you say it, but on the other end, they're really clueless.
Oh yeah.
Like they don't know that.
Yeah.
So much so that when 510 comes in and says, you see this gap is this big, they're like, no.
Yeah.
Like it's millions of dollars. They have no
Millions.
clue.
Millions, and it comes from because the people who are controlling the conversations they don't even go to the communities and sit down and talk to the people. And they make generalizations about their mindsets and their thinking. So they take the word Pookie, and Pookie becomes every poor black male. When a lot of poor black males are smarter than academic males because they understand their environment and how to navigate and make the best decisions. They might not be familiar with what to do in high corporate standing places because that has not been a challenge for them. But if you take that same academic male and put them in an environment where they have to make the same type of practical decision making, they don't have the ability. So a lot of times we allow the Pookie, or like Chris Rock did, niggas versus black people. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Because there's a lot of systems in the hood that are superior to any fucking thing we know. But you would not know that when you have this academic analysis. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking about all of the black folks in history who figured out a way to make hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars with no education out the hood. You walk past the street and you sit down and look at Birdman and talk to him, and if you were stuck in that mentality you were just talking about, you wouldn't learn nothing from him. Not realizing that he built a multi-billion-dollar machine from the gutter and still generates hundreds of millions of dollars a year today from it. But because he's tatted all over his face and he had his Louisiana drawl, the smart people would think, yeah, well, he's not intellectual enough, or he didn't have a degree. But he's set up for his great grandkids.
That's the thing. Like there's there's parenting systems. There's all kinds of solutions the hood possesses. We got to be careful. Once again, throwing out the baby with the bathwater. We need to slow down judging. Like, the more you learn you realize that judging quite often is a distant observation that's full of ignorance. You got to go in and like watch and learn. And for business, why this is important? You can start a business. Say Kaja sells these drinks. So then Kaja encourages me to sell my drink. I will build my model off my conversation with Kaja, but never talk to the customers I'm trying to sell to. Then wonder why when I get to the customer, they don't want to buy my drink. I never talk to them. I've been talking to Kaja this whole time, getting excited about Kaja's hyping me up about, no, this is what I did, this is what I did, this is how it worked for me. This is Kaja might be a bad business. I don't know. But until I talk to my customer, I have no market alignment. So overgeneralization is a poison in our brain. When you decide to export your products or services out of your neighborhood, forget the nation. Let's say Shakina has a gym called Pinpoint, and it's up in Oakland Hills, and she has a client base. But then you find out, if you do deeper research, her client base are within a certain radius of her gym. So it's a certain profile. Now she takes that same model and takes it down to Hayward in a beautiful building, it flops. What happened? She overgeneralized her customer. She didn't understand what is the product I have that works for this particular customer that may not work in this particular area. Now, if she didn't generalize her customer, she'll say, oh, if I want another version of Pinpoint, it needs to be in this radius right here because that's where these type of people live. And it'll be successful. But when you overgeneralize, you just think you're going from people to people, and you're just looking at, oh, I got older black people, and older black people like me. No, they don't. It's the ones in that radius because there's other things that those other older black people have in common, and between their belief systems, the economics, the common experiences that produces patterns in their behavior that lines in with the market, that lines with your product or your services. You guys get that? So, like, overgeneralization is really your label of people in your head, not the people that's in front of you. Let's roll.
You make this kind of...
this one? Which one are we on?
this one.
What images are you using the image? Oh, yeah, I think we was, what was it? Okay, yeah, go ahead, yeah, you make this fine. Go ahead, you make this, go ahead.
You make this kind of false assumption when you have a them category in your head into which you put the majority of humanity. What images are you using to imagine what life is like in this category? Are you perhaps recalling the most vivid and disturbing images from the news? I think that is exactly what's going on when people on level 4 answer this badly on this kind of fact question. The extreme deprivation we see on the news ends up stereotyping the majority of mankind.
So most of us learned racism through the 60s. 60s is horribly communicated. We contextually thrown out the wall. So you see the dogs biting on black folks. You see the water holes, right? You might see the Black Panthers in COINTELPRO, some of that stuff. So let's stop at 75, 85, 95, 2005, 2015. So almost 50 years later, you're still looking at that model. Let's go current. Currently, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the news. They've been pumping a lot of the crime in Oakland, right? But we're down 10% this year from last year. Do you remember seeing the same amount of crime reports last year? They didn't give time because they're so busy reporting on COVID that they didn't report all the local crime. Well, COVID's gone. They got to fill that vacuum. Guess who's filling that vacuum, black people? your hits. Now, San Francisco and Oakland, you guys are just ridiculous. This is horrible. Oh, really? I know you're not talking Mississippi. Chicago, New York, don't you go there, right? The reality is that when you're watching the news or you're watching these stories or you're having these common conversations, your overgeneralization are becoming images and stereotypes of all kinds. So white people ain't the only ones that do stereotyping. That's even a narrow way of looking at stereotyping. Most time when you think of stereotyping, you think about white people stereotyping you. Or maybe white people stereotyping another other culture that's represented within the term people of color. But that's a human flaw. And black people, we stereotype all the time. Ain't that something hard to process sometimes? Because you want to believe that, I'm the good one, they the bad one. Just get rid of that whole phrase. It's just human shit. Now, it's at the point now, y'all trying to tell white people don't be human no more. You're like, a white person, they lived in Walnut Creek their whole goddamn life. They're going to walk in a room with stereotypes. That's all they got. And as soon as they make a stereotype, you're going to put them on, I got this motherfucker on my phone, I'm about to show everybody, see what he said. Karen. You're creating more divisiveness. But you don't realize you're doing it. Because you think that stereotype is only theirs and it's not yours. It's what all human beings do as a flaw. It's just something that we can do casually. You just got to know when to turn it off. And say, when it's time to get serious, I can't do it. But if we're just playing around, you know what's up with white people, right? Okay, that's humor. We're playing around. But we're building a business. You say, hey, we want to wear products of Walnut Creek. Don't say, stop white people. Cut that out. Let's get a profile of the different people in Walnut Creek and figure out where our product fits in that market. Stop there. There's going to be white people going to be riding with you to the end of time, and a very small percentage of people are going to be sitting there the whole time, I hate you, I fucking hate you. And there's going to be a large group of white people who just don't give a fuck about you. Can go either way, it depends on how you show up. That's the world you live in now. I don't know if you guys paid attention, like in the 90s and 2000s and 2010, who was at the hip-hop concerts? It was all white. It wasn't none of us. I didn't go to that shit. Because at the time I was stereotyping life. I was like, I ain't gonna let these motherfuckers shoot me. I'm at home and watching shit on TV. I'm gonna play my cassette tape. Oh yeah, you say it's a cassette. Right? He's like, yeah, it was cassette too. But anyway, point is this. So a lot of those kids grew up on hip hop culture. They're not as disconnected as their fathers who grew up on Queen. But yet, you are holding on to conversations of their grandfathers. This is why you can't, and so these overgeneralizations are killing you. Let's keep going.
Every pregnancy results in roughly 2 years of lost menstruation. If you are a manufacturer of menstrual pads, this is bad for business. So you ought to know about and be so happy about the drop in babies per woman across the world.
Mm-hmm.
You ought to know and be happy, too, about the growth in the number of educated women working away from home.
Why is it so important?
Because these developments have created an exploding market for your products over the last few decades among billions of menstruating women now living on levels 2 and 3.
So real quick, if you're serious about business, this is a given for level 2s and 3, but let me bring it home. Because as you grow, you want to start thinking about investing. And Africa and Asia are fast-growing economies. So the best places to invest is in Africa and Asia. But let me slow this down a little bit. You need to pay attention to the trends. You need to pay close attention to culture. You need to be aware of cultural behavior and whys and stories behind it. Because these are missing markets that you're not exploring. These are $1 trillion markets that are sitting right in front of your face that you can't tap. Remember the company Bevel? He's the black dude who created the shaving solution for black people because black people would use, the white man created a blade that was 2 blades. But 2 blades for people with curly hair would create ingrown hairs, and it'd be the most painful form of shaving it is, to the point that the black market got used to it. But for 100 years, black men suffered by the 2 blade. Bevel came along, found a niche of behavior, and most white people didn't even believe in his market. Nas being his first investor, Nas, who's a black man, said, yes, this shit makes sense. Bevel eventually sold his company, I forgot how much for, to Procter & Gamble for a healthy amount of money, right? Because he found a niche in his own fucking market. You can't find the niches because you're stuck in overgeneralization. This is again, you can't see the niches in your own, you can't see the $1 trillion. Remember I said black people are spending 1.1 trillion a year and we're not accessing that 1.1 trillion? You can't see it because you overgeneralize them. You never knew that, huh? So when you're like, you know what's wrong with black people? You know what's wrong with black women, black men, that conversation is keeping you fucking broke. You can't see it. You can't see it. Or you're too busy saying good black people versus bad black people. Those are all markets. What the fuck are you talking about? If folks love pork down south, why are you not in that industry? If folks love kiwi and motherfucking kombucha, why are you not in that industry for black folks? And everything in between. Right? But it's too busy, you're stereotyping, whether you don't realize that you stereotype black people just as much as white people stereotype black people. Let me say this again, you stereotype black people just as much as white people stereotype white people. And if my brother Farrakhan was sitting next to me and say, your self-hatred make you sometimes sound worse than white people. All right, I'm gonna leave that alone because I don't want Farrakhan to give me a call tonight and say, hey, don't be calling my name, bro. So where were we at? We going to the same one? Next one, okay.
But as I realized when I attended an internal meeting at one of the world's biggest manufacturers of sanitary ware, most Western manufacturers have completely missed this.
Most black people, let's say this again. So as you attend these events and notice what all these industries, you're gonna realize most black people are missing the industries that are right underneath their nose. Keep going. By the way, I got a chance to see, I went to Courtney location and he's at this huge, I'm talking about it's fucking crazy big, Jamtown. It was in Jack London Square. And if y'all saw all the human beings in there that he has access to, it's a whole market that y'all don't even know exists unless you're in basketball. And he has sole access for clothing to this huge ass market. That's somebody finding those gaps. So keep going.
Instead, when hunting for new customers, they are often stuck dreaming up new needs among the 300 million menstruating women on level 4.
So what is? I'm gonna translate it. So instead of you seeing the new markets that's out there, you're competing for markets that's already heavily saturated. Black people, you're opening businesses that's already heavily saturated because you haven't said to yourself, "Oh shit, but black people do this different. That's a huge market that I'm authentic already because I was born with authenticity." You were born with authenticity, but you can't tap it because you're too busy trying to saturate markets that's already exploited. Keep going.
Man, what? My mind went. But what if? What if we market an even thinner pad for bikinis? What about pads that are invisible to wear under Lycra? What about one pad for each kind of outfit, each situation, each sport? Special pads for mountain climbers. Ideally, all the pads are so small they need to be replaced several times a day. But like most rich consumer markets, the basic needs are already met, and producers fight in vain to create demand in ever smaller segments.
So what he's saying is that you have a small market, so all you just keep doing is slicing the same market 1,000 different ways with 1,000 different ideas, but the market is so saturated that you're just trying to find a 1% of a like 2%, 3% market, right? As opposed to this huge untouched market because these humans, so you know how we're different than white people? You know how poverty, class, and economics keep us in a different rhythm? That means we have different movements. We have different movements. We have different needs. We have different needs. We have different potential markets, but we're not tapping into it because we think, oh, they got Gucci. I'm gonna create my black version of Gucci. Why would you do that? Why would you create black version of Gucci? Why? Why don't you think about learn to see the market differently, but that requires you to when I say you have to really learn how to see black people, you got to really take your time and study your culture. Matter of fact, let me even help you out better. Start with studying yourself to help you study your culture. Many of you have spent your whole life serving everybody else. You never served yourself. And don't you dare pause me because that's kind of close, but you dare do it to me. But you never served yourself, right? And because you discounted the value of yourself and the value of your market, you can't see the 1.1 trillion. Now, you know what's so crazy? Have you noticed how folks would come from Africa, Middle East, China, and pow, hit it right away? Because they don't have the generalization that's stopping them from seeing it. It's not that they're smarter than you or more creative. They don't have the block. You got the block. You see yourself as niggas. And I don't even, y'all know I don't even use that word. But that's one of the reasons I don't use the word. There's no such thing as a nigga to me. There's black people with different beliefs, different systems, and different experiences, and I need to see those as what they are and see the wisdom in them, the weaknesses and strengths in them, their value in them. Because sometimes the hardest person you could think of in the hood could easily one day be the savior. And the savior could easily one day be the destroyer. So when you try to, because otherwise, only reason a savior is always a savior to you is because of the story you tell yourself. Let's say tomorrow we created the Black Marines. What if that's the coldest soldier we got? What if the guy who's trying to do everything right is unraveling systems that causes cultural destruction? You see how complex life is? So a lot of times these stories we tell ourselves, as opposed to you have to become a student of life, especially a student of your culture, to learn how to extract the benefits of your culture for survival. But you can't farm your culture because you had no value in the land. You just see it as dirt. Go ahead. Oh, pass the microphone. You want to ask a question?
Oh, no, I just had a comment really about just the generalizations. I catch myself sometimes thinking I see if somebody invents something and I'm like, dang, why didn't I think of that? You know, and like you said, you generalize and you put people in categories and all of this stuff, so you're not even thinking beyond what's in front of you.
Not at
to
all.
even, catch the small things in between there to be like, oh, okay, well, here's something right here that, the
Like-
trillions, what,
So you know what's
want
crazy?
access
Like,
to.
have you ever went to somebody's house, hood, or somebody different in your house, but they black folks? You don't go in there going, why'd y'all do that? You go, why did you do that? You judge. Originalization is part of judging, right? This, man, I'll tell you. That's why I said we can't discount religion, because it's given us these methods. It just may not spin them up as complex as we're showing in class. But we've always had do not judge. But black folks, we judge in a minute as soon as we go to somebody else. They got plastic on their couch. Grandma must still be in this motherfucker, right? And you never ask yourself, now if grandma's putting the plastic on the couch, first of all, who makes the plastic? 2, why? 3, what are some of the other patterns that grandma does? How large is grandma's market? What's the difference between old, grandma new? When I see black folks, when I see hood black folks do shit, I smile. And they're like, why you smiling? I'm like, I don't want to know why he did it. And I think there's some innovation there. And all of a sudden I start seeing these values of these markets that are just so underserved, because I'm celebrating black culture. But if you stop celebrating black culture, start judging black culture, you lose black culture in the mix. If you stop celebrating black culture and you judge black culture, you lose black culture value in the mix. This is why loving yourself and loving your culture is an economic move. It's not just a feel-good move, it's a money move. Just keep going.
Keep going. Kidding me?
Are you taking notes again? Sorry.
Meanwhile, on levels 2 and 3, roughly 2 billion menstruating women have few alternatives to choose from. These women don't wear Lycra and won't spend money on ultra-thin pads. They demand a low-cost pad that will be reliable throughout the day, so they don't have to change it when they are out at work. And when they find a product they like, they will probably stick to that brand for their whole lives and recommend it to their daughters.
Ooh. You see how strong the potential of the black market is? Another thing that hurts us in the black market, we get into these tribal groups. So let's say I'm at the club every weekend, I'm going to a special club, and I become popular because of the girls I hang out with. I'm saying, I'm talking as if I was a woman. I'm hanging out with these group of young ladies, and we dress nice. We go to these nice restaurants. We always know we get together on Fridays. We read a certain kind of group of books, right? We all drive a certain nice car. It is, like from the Lexus family or the Benz family or the BMW family, the Audi family, but we the nice cars. We all got those shoes that we can't stay in for long because they hurt our feet, but they clean as a motherfucker, right? We all date certain kind of men. We don't mind spending money in certain situations. We all have a certain amount of traveling. We all can't see the rest of black people either. The one reason me and Court we float between tribes is because we are searching, we are observing, we are doing research. If I get loyal to a tribe, I become blind to all the other tribes. There's more certain types of, there's larger groups of black folks and there's smaller groups of black folks. Some of us start measuring ourselves by smaller groups than the larger groups. I mean, there was a survey that came out a few years, I think it was like 10 years ago. It's like, is there more black people in prison or in college? So folks was like, prison, no college. Who's the poorest people in America? People in the hood or college students? College students. But a lot of times we run around with these stereotypes. We're missing these conversations because we're hanging around groups that's based upon a stereotype, tribal stereotype, and then we learn our rationalizations become contaminated by our group relationship, blinding us to the surrounding world. So a lot of times when we say black people, we're only talking about our tribe. We don't pay attention to black people. Many of us have never went down south and just hung out with black people, like hang out with black people. So one of the things I do when I travel is I will go to the popular location, check my bags in, and go to the rural area and go hang out with the people. Go to rural, like when I was in Africa, I was in the rural area the whole damn time. I had my place stuff at the hotel. After a while, I just started to stay close to the rural area. Cause mind you, I wasn't sleeping in the rural area because I wasn't trying to do that. I ain't that gangster yet. But every day I was hanging out with them. When I go, every city I go, when I went to Cancun, I went to the popular part of Cancun for a second, saw the alcoholics, and went and hung out with the people. And was doing my best. If y'all ever see me try to speak Spanish, it is the funniest shit ever because I'm trying to make you understand my English and then try to put like just typical responses. So like, adios amigo. I'll say adios amigo. I go adios amigos. I'll make it, okay, anyway. This is how bad I am in Spanish. But anyway, East Oakland kids, boy. But the thing is that I go places and I try to meet the people because that's where my wisdom comes from. Wisdom is amongst so many different groups of people. And when you isolate yourself to isolated experiences, you lose so much from that. That's one of the key ways to avoid this generalization is traveling and experiencing different people that are different than you and sitting with those people. And like I said, when you meet with black folks from the South, like when I meet with real Southern, like hardcore, my mom was a sharecropper, I hear my mama and my grandmother in them. I'm like, oh yeah, I know, yeah, okay. And I even know how to like clean up my behavior to fit in just enough to be unseen because I was raised in that environment, even though now it's not as Southern as it used to be. And like my daughter speaks very Southern because my wife still speaks Southern because her father's a sharecropper. So my daughter says something to me and I'm like, what the hell did you just say to me? I'm just saying, Daddy, I don't understand why. I'm like, why are you talking like this, right? But she's imitating her mother when her mother forgets she speaks like that. So, but when I go down south, I'm reminded, I'm a California version of a black person, but this is what I need to do to show up to spaces. And then when I get a chance to just sit in, you hear the wisdom of that man sit on the stump. He'll say some things in ways you'd be like, oh, that was so damn tight. But they still have a rich connection to reality. And what I tell you what makes me uncomfortable is a lot of black folks who get used to this social media shit, they're becoming a new animal. It's a new animal. They like virtual reality humans. Anyway, keep going. Okay, next one.
The same logic applies to many other consumer products. and I have given hundreds of lectures to business leaders making the same point. The majority of the world population is steadily moving up the levels. The number of people on level 3 will increase from 2 billion to 4 billion between now and 2040.
So, real quick, where we are as a black people in the 60s, we already changed. Where black people are today, it's going to change. They're moving up. Black people are evolving. They're changing. They're growing. You won't see it because it's slow enough where it's outside your observation. But a lot of times, because we're holding on to old stories, we can't see the progress. Go back to Woman King. The black folks who are complaining that Woman King is being financed by white people and they are not telling the accurate story of that particular Benin, that part of Africa, is stuck in an old story. They can't see that the recreation of this story is one of the most inspirational stories for black folks ever written on the big screen. So a lot of times we're going to miss the new narrative because we're stuck in the old narrative. We're going to have to learn how to stop and process and realize things are always changing, and you got to keep updating the way you process the world around you. You can't hold on to these old models. Like, I would almost say, take everything you learned from pro-black 60s and start filtering that shit out so you can throw away at least 60% of it. Because 60% of it is no longer valid to your current state. Consciousness today cannot sound like consciousness in the 1960s because we was in a different culture, different economics, different systems. Everything was different. And you're still quoting old shit. So you can't see new opportunities unfolding because you're still looking at the world from the lens of 1960s, 1970s. Even when you hear about the Black Panthers, I told you, I'm not sure if I told you guys, my father was a hitman for the Black Panthers. Yes, a hitman for the Black Panthers. Because Black Panthers had to sell cocaine to do the other stuff on the positive side, to raise money. Well, my father was the one sent out to, well, you know, maybe you shouldn't be around no more on the illegal side. Then my father broke away from them and decided he wanted to sell his own cocaine for himself and become a pimp of white women. I know, please forgive me, my family's complex. And they came in the house and beat him almost to his death. They had a lot of illegal stuff going on, but when you see the Black Panthers you see in the book, they're all romanticized. They were really number kids trying to figure some shit out. They weren't strategical adults. They had a couple of smart motherfuckers who could articulate well, but they were really kids trying to figure some shit out. And if you don't have big incentive money, you can't keep organization that big together because they start to expand and hit different regions of the country. But the romanticism of the Black Panthers is greater than the real Black Panthers. So even when you analyzing shit and then you say, I'm gonna create a new Black Panthers today, you're gonna fail because you didn't understand what the fuck you were looking at in the past. You see where I'm going with this? And it's not, look, there's a time when the truth matters, a time when the truth doesn't matter. If you use the Black Panthers to incentivize a group of black folks to do better for themselves, it doesn't matter who they were. But if you look at the Black Panthers to recopy and paste what they did, now it matters who they were. You guys you see the difference? So remember I told you, starting for the last 6 months of this class, of this year, that you have to hold two opposites in your head to be true at the same time? Even those opposites are in conflict with each other. Let's keep going.
Almost everyone in the world is becoming a consumer. This is what anyway. If you suffer from the misconception that most of the world is still too poor to buy anything at all.
Okay, so if you suffer from the idea that most folks in the hood are too poor to buy anything at all, stay with that. I want you to keep making that translation because the hood is going to be your launch pad. The world's going to be your growth. So you got to get started somewhere, right? It's hard to go out there and start selling products to South Africa right now. You can't. They say, well, how much is shipping? Ooh. Okay, what happens if I just get it down the street? Right? It's like it changes so what gives you the money to get it to Africa is your stimulation of growth in your local market. But this still applies locally just as much as it applies. So too many of us think that black folks are too poor. Okay, keep going.
You risk missing out on the biggest economic opportunity in world history while you use your marketing spend to push special yoga pads to wealthy hipsters in the biggest cities in Europe.
Did you say hipsters, Kaja? college, you know how we feel about the hipsters. Go ahead.
Strategic business planners need a fact-based worldview to find their future customers.
A fact-based worldview. That is the most powerful phrase of this whole presentation so far. What's destroying your ability to run a business is a fact-based worldview. Go back to everything we talked about so far about how we're spinning up virtual ideas that we find virtual. Okay, so I was telling some people the other day that crazy folks have always been here. Extreme folks Kyrie Irvings have always been here. I'm called Kyrie crazy. So we've got all these folks who had these extreme opinions about stuff, right? I don't know if you realize Kyrie Irving just recently said Sandy Hawk was staged again. Like, boy, you can't. That white boy said that shit. Don't you, boy, sit your ass down. But anyway, so we've always had people like that, but we didn't have social media in the past. So we may have 5 here, 10 here, 20 here, 30 here, but now those 20 will go find 20 in all these other little regions, and now they represent maybe 100,000 people. Then all it takes is a media to light that match by saying, oh, the crazy movement says this is incorrect. Then it starts to spread to non-crazy people as, well, they might be true. I don't think that might sound kind of smart. Because remember, charisma drives the internet. People don't listen to the truth, they listen to charisma. So now somebody charismatic from the crazy crew starts to push this idea. So then, because none of us are going out and talking to real people, which will help calibrate us, we're all online having conversations and processing the world around us to only go out in the real world and hold our phone and not talk to anybody. You're trapped in virtual thinking. You are so removed from fact-based worldviews that when it comes time to start your company, you're talking to your virtual self in the virtual world and realize ain't nobody there besides you and a couple of the crazies who ain't gonna buy your shit anyway. The way you grow something is you gotta ground yourself, because all those crazy people do have patterns. But if you talk to them about, I'm gonna create this photo of a flat Earth, and I know this shit's gonna go crazy. Well, the reality is that flat Earth person has a certain economic level, who has a certain kind of job, who spends all their money on these certain type of things. You don't find that funnel of what they're spending their money on. You're gonna try to create this market of something that they won't have no value on, because you have a false fact-based analysis of this flat earther person. That flat earther person is a real human being that falls into a real category that you can actually tap the resources from if you're part of that crazy ass group. But you can't extract it because you're caught in virtual perception of who they are. It's like I see these damaged people online. They like, oh, I don't like this. I'm gonna boycott this. I just can't support this because, like, you listen to damaged individuals who finally got a microphone. Like, people don't talk to people like that on the streets. Go ahead.
Y'all made me think about Jehovah's Witnesses, right? Think about Jehovah's Witnesses. There's a million of them in the United States. Mm-hmm. They got all these weird rules, right? They don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't make tons of money, they have hella restrictions about their behavior. Wholesome, they can't watch certain movies, rated R movies. You think, damn, it's no market. Mm-hmm. But that means there's a million people that has a market for hella wholesome shit. Mm-hmm. And they knock on people's doors on the weekends. Those are book bags. So we can make wholesome book bags and wholesome things and wholesome TV shows and wholesome outfits and dresses that go below the knee and dresses that cover up the cleavage. You got a million people that they have to fuck with you. They don't even got a choice. So you don't realize the pockets of multi-millions that are there. And I know, because I remember there are companies that just targeted Jehovah's Witnesses. Look, we got this wholesome dress. It goes below the knee, so you ain't showing nothing. And guess what? They were making money off of that. So there's pockets of people that you might overlook all the time that you're like, oh, they crazy, or that's weird, or that's a cult. A smart businessman is sitting there analyzing, or woman is analyzing, plotting, how can I infiltrate that market? Because how many people are like that? Because all you need is a couple thousand people to rock with you if you want to become a millionaire. You just need a couple thousand. So if you can infiltrate that market, you good.
And most of those ideas will also fade because most systems they don't last forever. They do decade runs, sometimes 2-decade run, they go away. But that 2-decade, that could have been all the boost money you ever dreamed of. Go ahead, okay.
I don't know if you got a chance to see the And One documentary on Netflix, but all of this is reminding me of that. I remember And One, but I wasn't into basketball like that. But basically, like Nike was dominating, and then it was these 3 white boys that was trying to start, like they were hoopers growing up, and they was trying to start like some sort of basketball swag line, and they started with just the T-shirts, and then from there, someone sent them a videotape of what was going on like in downtown Brooklyn, and it was like thousands of black people watching street basketball games.
Wow.
And so from there, they started their whole line, and I didn't even pay attention to any of this, but they had their own league and stuff that was like traveling to the point where the people were saying that the arenas were filling up more than the actual NBA games.
Yeah, I remember
And these
that.
people had like contracts and everything just from these 3 white boys seeing black people react to street basketball, whereas Nike wasn't paying attention to that. So this is what this is reminding me of. Thank you.
But that's what I'm saying. There's so many trends in black culture that's crazy huge that we missing because of the stereotypical relationship we have with it. Go ahead.
I just want to say they was netting. I studied them. That's part of my research. What I do. They were netting $300 million a year. Just FYI,
Come on, man.
$300 million
He
a
didn't say
year.
grossing, he said netting off of black culture. A black culture thing that I just probably went there and like, whether you judged it one way or the other, but you overgeneralized. Oh my God. Overgeneralized. Like there's so many movements now, these young black folks are creating new markets. There are these new trends they're into that's crazy different than anything I believe in. And many of us are never going to tap those markets because we're like, young people are stupid. Oh, they did these young kids. Oh my God. Those are markets. And if you don't serve them, white folks will. And then then you in line trying to get a job from them, getting paid trinklets. And then you're going to be talking about, oh, this is racist. Can we stop? Go ahead. Next one or what? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
On day 2, we usually visit a public hospital. When they see that there is no pain
Okay,
on
so this is cool. So he's talking about his Swedish students go with him to like African countries, and he talking about like he took his Swedish students to I think it might have been India in this one. He might have been in India. But go ahead, read the story. So go ahead.
when they see there is no paint on the walls and no air conditioning and 60 people to a room, my students whisper to each other that this place must be extremely poor. I have to explain that people living in extreme poverty have no hospitals at all.
So when you read that automatically, we do this all the time in our own culture. Keep going.
A woman living in extreme poverty gives birth on a mud floor, attended by a midwife with no training who has walked barefoot in the dark. The hospital administrator helps. She explains that not painting the walls can be a strategic decision in countries on levels 2 and 3. It's not that they can't afford the paint. Like flaking walls keep away the richer patients and their time-consuming demands for costly treatments, allowing hospitals to use their limited resources to treat more people in more cost-effective ways.
You see that innovation and intelligence? And you would read it, if you come up from a different space, you from a different perspective, you would read that totally different. Not realizing those people are being innovative as fuck because they just improved the ability to save life by getting rid of something that would clog the system.
When we were going over to Sunnydale, which looks like Campbell Village in the 80s, looked like Acorn, Campbell Village in the 80s.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
Like,
Cats
whoa.
rolled up on me and asked me what I was doing on the block.
You just don't expect places to still exist like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
today.
Yeah.
And when you look at those communities on the surface, what you can't see is the amount of innovation that their residents have created, whether it's, I mean, they didn't have grocery stores. They got those people fed because they create solutions all day, every day. They wait for nobody. They just make it happen. But their community center had a lot of things in there, but it definitely, when you think of a community center and when you think of what would that be to really serve the community, it would definitely bring to mind something that looked nicer than what they had.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yet and still, that center is like 2 generations in. Money gets poured in that they use. They feed people daily. They serve families. They serve kids. There's not ever a loss. They never have to ask people to come and support it from the community. It's always there. Somebody is, so it is, and it's not unorganized. It's not chaos.
Yeah.
There's a way and a flow, but it takes you like an hour of just getting in there and not saying much and just observing for you to get past like the mental block of this just looks like trash.
Mm-hmm.
But it does take you like an hour, maybe even a couple of times for you to get to a place where you respect it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are just walking by or observing and you don't give yourself at least an hour to go in and just really be in it and just be there, you will say that something has to be done. We need to update it. It needs to be state of the art. It needs to have better than whatever those people have done. And it is quick. It's not like it's so immediate you can't catch it.
Mm-hmm.
You can only, so going to those communities and seeing all of the solutions that are in place, that have been in place for a couple of generations now, and getting to a place where you look back and you say, I respect the fact that there's no paint on the walls. I respect the fact that whatever is signaling here is telling these people that this is for them and is not for other people. It takes some training. It takes
Yeah.
some it's really hard to, not hard, like you can do it. It's challenging because your brain immediately goes, this what the money go to?
Mm-hmm.
This looks like trash. Somebody's not doing their job. They can be doing better. If I go to other neighborhoods, they don't look like
You
this.
should never do that comparison.
Man, it's
Never.
crazy.
Never. That's one of the reasons we don't see a lot of our greatness and a lot of it was also behind a lot of our self-hatred is comparisons. Comparisons are so contextually starved, you don't really see the brilliance that's right in front of you. There's so much brilliance. We went to the pregnancy pop-up village, right? There was about 3 sisters in there. Yo, I put them up against anybody as far as their ability to make some shit move and shake and get things done and control a large group of people and be able to see complexities and patterns and run that shit like a science. But quite often, you'll look at the same lesser performance dressed better with more charisma and assume the lesser performers with charisma with white skin or white skin is better than the person that is on the other side.
The level 1, 2, 3, and 4 is like, it's dope, especially if you live in the Bay Area, because we kind of see that, even though textbook level 1, 2, 3, and 4, we don't see levels 1, 2, 3.
No.
We see variations of 4.
Yeah.
But I mean, just in terms of being able to see those differences, we see that all of the time. And the brain is always going to, we should all look like level 4.
No, we should. And on top of it too, it's like, I mean, if you ever get a chance to read Nassim Taleb book, Skin in the Game, he talks about how we discount, like Wall Street was started by Italian gangsters. It wasn't started by mathematicians. They came way later. But Wall Street was started by straight, poor, white Italian gangsters who just was very common sense in their thought. So a lot of times we have these ideas of that the people that are going to be the initiators of the future should look like this. No, they should look the way they look. You know, I was at Court's event, and Cass was coming to me like, yo, no, I heard you had this. I was like, yo, you got Court right here. I said, no, Court got swag, and he's quiet. Make him talk. I said, the cat is dope as fuck. Y'all not making him talk about the right stuff to you. But if you talk to him, he'll blow your mind. You don't need to find me. You got the person you need right here, right? But it's one of the things that Court represents to me the brilliance that I grew up with, which is cats who, if some shit went down, you would look at your uncle like, man, he could fight. But you're also the same uncle who can process the world in ways you'd be like, what? Right? And just because he doesn't like your white school teacher with driving a Subaru and wearing some Birkenstocks, he has smoked that person in a life engagement game where you have to make decisions in life. He would smoke them. But a lot of times we take the charisma and the large words as the focal point of intelligence. We got to learn to see intelligence on different levels. And that's why I say if you learn to appreciate yourself and your culture, all kind of markets going to surface. You'll be like, oh my God. I always tell people all the time, if I wasn't running 510 Media, I see hella markets in my community. I see money all the time in my community. He was like, I don't understand why a person would ever have a job. There's so much money. But you can't gain access to it because you don't love your people yet. You don't love yourself. Anyway, go ahead. We do fishes? Okay, next one. So this elevator story. So a group of students get into the elevator. They all, because the doctor's like, yo, let's go. I'm tired of waiting. Let's just get in the elevator. But they're in India. And the story picks up from there. Go ahead.
Afterward, our host looked at me and said, I have never seen that before.
Okay, so let me go back. So I guess I need to go back a little bit further. So as she's running towards the elevator, she tries to stop the elevator with her leg, and she sticks her leg in the elevator to cause it to stop. But it doesn't in India. Mm-hmm. And she almost lost her leg. It bruised her leg really, really bad. Cut her leg open like they had to really but they had to force the elevator back open. And so now the doctor, who's like, what the fuck? Why would she put her leg in the elevator? Now pick up from there.
Afterward, our host looked at me and said, I have never seen that before. How can you admit such stupid people for medical training? I explained that all elevators in Sweden had sensors on the doors. If something were put between them, they would instantaneously stop closing and open instead. Man. The Indian doctor looked doubtful. But how can you be sure that this advanced mechanism is working every single time? I felt stupid with my reply. It just always does. I suppose it's because there are strict safety rules and regular inspections. He didn't look convinced. So your country has become so safe that when you go abroad, the world is dangerous for you.
Man, that's some muffin gangsters ridiculous. That's a pimping ass. So when I travel certain places, when I went to Cancun, they was hitting cats up. Bow, give me your shit. Heads on swivel, but I'm used to being on swivel. Shit, that's East Oakland, right? 2 is when I go places, I try to unlock what I'm walking into and move with curiosity, not assumptions. When I go down south, I move with curiosity, assumptions. When I go to LA, when I go to Sacramento, I move with curiosity, not assumptions. Matter of fact, now when I go back to West Oakland, now I move with curiosity without assumptions. When you start making all those assumptions, you're threatening your own safety. Your safety depends on your ability to analyze, keep your mind open, stop walking through this world assuming, and the world evolves from you. When you travel across out to states, there's this thing called American travel. American travel is when you travel other places and you judge everything based upon the way. So you go, why do they eat that? We don't eat that at home. Why do they do that? We don't do that at home. And what you're telling the people is you're snobbing them because they see you as a high-performing nation and you're looking down on them. So when I travel abroad, only thing I ask is like, hey, what's that? Stop. Don't. What do you do back at home? It doesn't matter what I do. It's irrelevant. This looks interesting. I want to learn more with this. All of a sudden, I bond with different people, but I also gain insights, and I learn different ways of seeing the world that I didn't know existed. But when you go around the world projecting your way of seeing the world, it's like a natural walking narcissist that you don't realize you're shutting down everybody from sharing with you because you're too busy projecting what you believe and what you assume and what you think is real. So when you move in this world, your assumptions are dangerous. Don't become so smart in the way you think the world should work. Social justice, you know what's wrong with woman king. It's just not. I think, there's real history and it's not acknowledged. I talked to this professor. He said, you fucking, don't get me started. Bitch ass shit. Sorry for those who got offended. That's what we say in the hood. That's soft. Why would you say some shit like that? But the reality is that that's the world we live in. Like, we become so safe. And this whole safety idea is based upon assumptions. That's where safety comes from. You assume this is how it works, this is where it's supposed to go, this is what you're supposed to say to me if I say this to you. If you're down south, so Jasadi and Josh was talking to me the other day, and they were talking about they went to one of the most racist places down south. Confederate flags, everything. Well, California racist. Josiah said that was the best 20 hours of his life. Best conversations. He went to a gun shop, dude suspenders with the jeans put up high, and he was eating a burger, a McDonald's burger with a spoon. And Josiah said, "Are you about to do this?" He said, "Son, just what do you say, son? What do you say to him?" "Oh, son, bear witness." And he just started eating a Big Mac with a spoon, right? Best conversations about guns, life, bullets. You find that you learn so much about the world. But many of us miss out because you're in these places and you make an assumption, oh, he's Confederate flag, they don't deal with black people. I know what it is. I know what it is. The best birthday party I ever had, this is no lie. The funnest birthday, not the best, because the best I ever had was my 50th that my wife threw for me. I'm not gonna get in trouble for none of you motherfuckers, okay? So just say this real quick, I'm cleaning it up. So if she's watching, my 50th birthday was the best thing that God has ever given me. Okay, now, the funnest one I ever had, my 25th birthday with the Bloods and Crips. It's a year that Farrakhan caught them call a truce, and the sister I was dating, her family were Bloods and Crips, and she got them both to come to my surprise party that I didn't know none of them, and it was the funnest party ever, and I didn't drink or smoke, but the love Bloods and Crips can give you, it was so. When I left that party, I was like, yo, I can see how you can become a Blood or Crip. I can see how that can happen. The love they give you from the bottom up is so cold-blooded, right? But when I first saw them come through the door and they was throwing up sign, and I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be my last. I always say I was like a little past 25. This is gonna be it, and it turned out to be the most amazing ever. Assumptions. Also, that doesn't mean that I'm going to go to a Blood and Crips house because I just want to see who they are. Assumptions. There's processes of how you get there, but engage the world around you. Ask questions. All right, let's keep going.
Side note, Indian students. On our way out, I told a fellow student I was supposed to be with the fourth years. That's us, he said. I was stunned. They had caste marks on their foreheads and lived where exotic palm trees grew. How could they know much more than me? Over the next few days, I learned that they had a textbook 3 times as thick as mine, and that they had read it 3 times as many times.
So he's in the poorest part of India. People have tribal marks. It's a part of India where you're like, okay, folks are poor as fuck. And you're like, I gotta go teach these folks, and they don't know shit. Oh, actually, they got a book that's way thicker than yours, and they've already read it 3 times. Keep rolling.
I remember this whole experience as the first time in my life that I suddenly had to change my worldview. My assumption that I was superior because of where I came from. The idea that the West was the best and the rest would never catch up. At that moment, 45 years ago, I understood that the West would not dominate the world for much longer.
Keep going. Oh, I guess you didn't tell. So, I guess, okay, and if she's kind of, so in that story, he's teaching these students, and as he's talking to them, he realized he thought they was in their fourth year. They was in their first year. But the level of their knowledge, they knew more than he knew. That they should have been teaching him because the depth of their studies. Even the questions they were asking, he couldn't even answer all their questions. They were so advanced. One of the ways I teach this class is I spend a lot of time talking to folks in the hood, and I kind of filter things to them to let them throw it back at me and give me a better way to teach it. And a lot of times in the conversation, their wisdom prevails. You'll find people in the hood that are so fucking brilliant, but you make these assumptions. And I've said this 1,000 times. So he's giving you examples of how it's so easy. The more educated you become, the more paid you become, the more exposed you become, the easier it is to overgeneralize and shrink people. Stereotyping. Ain't that some shit? Black people stereotype? Keep going.
How to control the generalization instinct if you can't travel. What the photos make clear is that the main factor that affects how people live is not their religion, their culture, or the country they live in, but their income.
So religion looks different depending on the income. Just remember that. So if you say, I know about this one religion, they did this, go look at their income. Southern religion in poor areas is different than white religions in rich areas. So when you take Southern Baptist extremism in poor areas and report it like that's how Southern all Christians think because they're white, you're distorting white folks' relationship to Christianity. Crazy, huh? So, and the media will do that shit in a second. Yeah, Southern Baptists believe in this. Yeah, they down in Mississippi. You know, poor. Mississippi is the poorest state in the nation. So you report any shit happening in Mississippi, you got to know that the opinion is skewed because the income level changes the conversation. It always does. The most racist, hillbilly white people you ever meet are the poorest white people. It really is. Rich white people just don't give a fuck about you. They just don't. You might say, well, they won't let me marry their daughter. I'm worth $3 billion. You worth $400 on a good Sunday. Why the fuck I'm gonna let you date my daughter? Call it racist if you want. I'm trying to protect my money line. That's a reality. When you do the same, keep going.
The way a family living on level 2 in China stores and prepares food looks very similar to the way a family living on level 2 in Nigeria stores and prepares food.
So poverty, even if they're on different continents, look the same. Like, okay, Chinese people, you know, some of you say Chinese culture is racist. I had to dive into that one myself because I used to think the same way. So, you know, when it's like, oh, blacks against Chinese, I'm like, oh, come on, y'all cut that out. Chinese be disrespectful for a long time. No, there's different class of Chinese. There's the upper class don't even talk to the lower class. They shit on them. And a lot of times you go to a restaurant and a Chinese person is treating you like shit because the person that owns it is shitting on them. So a lot of times, if you don't understand that, poor and rich folks have just as much gap as black and white folks have. It's crazy, but it's the truth. Go ahead.
It's interesting, too, because a lot of times when they come to this country, we don't recognize their skill. Like if you're a doctor in somewhere, we don't recognize that unless you're a doctor here.
Mm-hmm.
So you have classes of people who are coming over here who were maybe on level 4 in their countries, but when they come to America, we're like, no, you're not on level 4 here.
Mm-hmm.
Or
you're
not.
Africa.
Yeah.
So in Africa, a lot of black Africans come here come from strong families. Mm-hmm. So the reason they don't fuck with you is because they don't fuck with Africans back home. I witnessed this personally when I go back for Ghana, when I go to Ghana. This person can fly back from the United States or England or Europe or something like this and come back to Africa and they be shitting on Africans. Shitting on them. And if you have dinner with them, they'll shit on you too, right? But the typical African gonna give you so much love, it's gonna blow your fucking mind. So this distortion, we don't realize there's a gap in human behavior because of economics that we don't really want to talk about because we've been attacked with economic talk when somebody says, oh, this is not racism, it's economics. You're like, motherfucker, this is racism, right? But there is truth that economics does impact the way human beings are showing up to different narratives and the way they show up to this world. And so if you don't understand that, you would think, oh, in sub-Saharan Africa, they did this amazing, beautiful thing that speaks about their African history. And then you go to Asia, and like, they did the same thing here. Oh, they must have got it from Africans. No, poverty breeds similar behavior. I promise you, I hear that shit all the time from the hood. That's just not, like, once you understand the way the world is complex and how money changes the conversations, and a hood dude from East Oakland gonna have a lot of similarities from a hood dude from Chicago, hood dude from the South, hood dude from Seattle, and hood dude from Florida. You'll have more similarities because of their poverty level. Poverty will dictate more behavior than you realize. So when you try to start saying, oh, the Crips are different than this, okay, gang members and those are different responses to survival to a certain level of poverty or impotence. But once you understand that, you start to see them differently. Go ahead.
In fact, when you are one of the 3 billion people living on level 2, whether you live in the Philippines, Colombia, or Liberia, the basic facts about your life are quite similar.
Very similar. Keep going.
Question your categories. It will be helpful to you if you always assume your categories are misleading.
Always.
Here are 5 powerful ways to keep questioning your favorite categories. Look for differences within and similarities across groups.
So looking for differences within the similarities across groups. Go ahead.
Beware of the majority.
So when people say most people, just like when people say most people to me, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but I will tell you, I don't know what that means because I'm stopping my brain from embracing what you just said. My brain will absorb that so fast and run with it I run about a mile before I realize I ain't got nothing in my hand. Mm-hmm. So what I do is I stop myself from even participating in that. I just came up with this mechanism, this habit of saying, what does that mean? How many people are you talking about? Because it's so, you also get inspired by that. Most people, they believe that this is the smart way of doing business. And you're the person that gets played like a sucker. Because you heard the word most people. Keep going.
Beware of exceptional examples. Assume you are not normal.
I know this one guy. I seen this one time, this example happened. I had this story that happened to me. It probably gonna happen to you. This always happens to me, so this must be what's going on with all people. So you're unique, but your experiences are normal. Confusing, ain't it? Go ahead.
And beware of generalizing from one group to another.
White people versus black people. Keep going.
Look for differences within groups and similarities across groups.
Mm-hmm.
Country stereotypes simply fall apart when you look at the huge differences within countries and the equally huge similarities between countries on the same income level, independent of culture or religion.
So y'all know, like if you get in your car right now and you go to the hood in Sacramento, hood in San Francisco, hood in Oakland, they're very, very different. But then people will say black people in California, Northern California. You gotta know that doesn't mean anything. Don't mean anything. You guys got rich folks in your family, you can't say them be around, or you got hood folks in your family, you can't say they've been around. You got earthly people in your family, you got hardcore Christian people in your family, you got gangsters in your family, you got a couple strippers in your family, right? You got LGBTQ plus in your family, right? We're variations. Keep going.
Remember the similarities between the cooking pots of families on level 2 in Nigeria and China?
So they showed a picture of cooking pots in level 2. In China and Nigeria, they look exactly the same, even though they're in different locations. Keep going.
If you saw the picture from China, you would probably think, oh, that's how they heat water in China. In an iron pot, on a tripod over a fire. That's their culture. No, it's a common way to heat water on level 2 all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a question of income. And in China, as elsewhere, people also cook in several other ways, depending not on their culture, but on their income level.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes we remember, in Africa, Asian history, in Asian medicine, and African medicine, I don't know what that means. Not saying Asians don't have a good medicine. I'm not saying they do or don't have a good medicine. But when we're observing from here in Oakland and we have no training and no cultural studies to be able to separate these different variations, you might be bringing me a level 1 solution in a level 4 world. But it just sounds so romantic. What the fuck does that mean? Like, I'm not willing to jump on these ideas without any type of deeper insight and just let the charisma of the conversation melt me into like, yeah. And then I fall into that cryptomnesiac where I start to think, oh, I created that idea, or I'm the originator of what you just said to me, and now I'm preaching to others. You have to learn more about things before you're at the Berkeley Flea Market adopting these new ideas.
That's why it's important to adopt that level, that second order thinking that
Yes.
you had talked about, you preached earlier, first principles and second order, so that you can run those ideas through a thought experiment to see, all right, what happens after that? Because a lot of times people, like you said, with charisma, if they got enough game and mouthpiece that they can, and they're articulate enough just to your taste, then they can hypnotize you to do anything. And then you'll come home hella excited, jumping into some shit and not realize it could be damaging to you. Like all these diet crazes and fads and all this shit like that. And then, but simple second order thinking can be like, wait a minute, you want to adopt a diet of people who only live to be 30 years old? That's because, but they were just like an older people, but they didn't live past 30. So why is that good for me? But a lot of times we hype shit up so much that we just hop on these hypes.
Come on.
So that's the real. It's like level 2 is level 2. Level 1 is level 1. So think about from a marketing and branding perspective. That means you don't got to live in China to understand what, just from a generalizing standpoint, what they're going through. And now you can market to these people.
Excellent. Keep going. She be typing, dude.
When someone says that an individual did something because they belong to some group, a nation, a culture, a religion, take care. Are there examples of different behavior in the same group or of the same behavior in other groups?
So yeah, it's something too when people start saying, in African culture, and in African, in Asian culture, the indigenous people, they smoke weed. Broaden the view and look at more around that story, and you realize there's not apples and oranges. You can't copy and paste that. So let's be slow to adopt these romantic historical stories without broadening the lens and realize, so then they got conquered last year? Oh, okay, well, let me skip that one. But you don't know that if you get stuck in there, what they did in the hut, and they were all smoking, and the great one said some things that happened to be intelligent, and now you assume that I need to adopt that because I want that level of intelligence, to only realize they got conquered the next battle. So it's just, you got to broaden that lens, right? You got to look at, and also too, slow to make it. When you love somebody, the way somebody speak, become suspicious. If somebody is an excellent communicator, become suspicious. Don't just, man, I love the way he talks. Now it's time to go into the straight, I'm about to audit everything you're saying because you got me fucked up. Because that's really pimping at this highest level. Go ahead. Keep going.
Africa is a huge continent.
Man, 3 United States fits into Africa. Africa is so big, you put 3 United States in Africa. So when somebody tell you, they show you a camera of somebody fighting in Africa, that's like me showing you somebody fighting in your house and say all of America is fighting. Are you fucking, what? This media does this all the time. It's wars in East Africa, and they show you a block of people going, they getting at it. You're like, man, East Africa, and people be like, I don't even know where the fuck that's at, bro. But that's how fucked up you are about your brain around Africa. Go ahead.
Africa is a huge continent of 54 countries and 1 billion people.
Mm-hmm.
In Africa, we find people living at every level of development.
Mm-hmm.
In the bubble chart above, I have highlighted all the African countries. Look at Somalia, Ghana, and Tunisia.
Mm-hmm.
It makes no sense to talk about African countries and Africa's problems, and yet people do. all the time. It leads to ridiculous outcomes like Ebola in Liberia and Sierra Leone affecting tourism in Kenya, a 100-hour drive across the continent.
So LA is 4 hours drive. I think to get to the other side of the United States is 20. How many hours is it drive? 24? 48, 20? 48 to 50 hours to get from California to New York? Okay. So 48 to 50 hours to get to California, New York. 100-mile drive, 100-hour drive? That means you go across the United States twice, and that's how far the disease was. And we're like, oh, hell, I'm good with Africa. What? We saw it when Trayvon Martin, bless his family, was murdered. People in Oakland didn't want their kids to go outside. What? It doesn't make any sense. But that's overgeneralization. That's part of overgeneralization. Keep going.
That is farther than London to Tehran.
Keep going.
Beware of the majority. When someone says that a majority of a group has some property, it can sound like most of them have something in common. Remember that majority just means more than half. It could mean 51%. It could mean 99%. If possible, ask for the percentage.
Which most people, first of all, in the lower you get in the hood, we use the word majority loosely. You know, most black people, we don't know what the hell that means. And when the news uses it, it could be 51% of a certain particular group, but I would even argue it's a 51% of a segment of a particular group. Rarely do we ever hear majority of America believe in anything. Go ahead.
For example, here's a fact. In all countries in the world, a majority of women say their needs for contraceptives are met. What does that tell us? Does it mean nearly everyone, or does it mean a little over half? The reality differs widely from one country to another.
That's the trick right there.
In China and France, an impressive 96% of women say their needs for contraception are being met. Just below that, at 94%, are the United Kingdom, South Korea, Thailand, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Norway, Iran, and Turkey. But in Haiti and Liberia, the majority means just 69%. And in Angola, it means only 63%.
So why is that important? You know, only 3% people can make it in the entrepreneur world. See that generalization? Well, what race you talking about? Like, we got to pull it. Like, I've never seen the stats for how many black people make it in business, how many white people make it in business, how many white rich people make it in business, how many Californian make, that's important. Because if you just set the whole 97%, that's a distortion. Averages are a distortion. And we say it all the time in like these big self-help cultures. 20% of the people, 80% of 90%. Stop it. We don't know what the fuck that means. I don't know what the fuck you saying to me. I say, I don't believe in getting pimped. Keep going. I love this one.
Beware of exceptional examples. Beware of exceptional examples used to make a point about a whole group.
This is great. Everybody stay here. This is Kaja. Don't you quit this class after this next one. Okay, go ahead.
You sound like somebody, Grandma. Kaja?
Okay, this is going to get good. This is the good one here. Let's go.
Chemophobia, the fear of chemicals, is driven by generalizations.
So chemophobia, Kaja, is driven by generalization. Keep going.
From a few vivid but exceptional.
She said vivid. Okay, the word is vivid, Kaja. So when you come back at me, I just want you to be with me. From a few vivid. Go ahead.
But exceptional examples of harmful substances.
This is about to get good, Kaja. Go ahead.
Some people become frightened of all chemicals.
They become frightened of all chemicals, Kaja. Keep going.
But remember that everything is made from chemicals.
Everything is made from no, wait a minute. Court, because, can I just confirm that, because, Shabisha, she was drinking earlier. She was with her friends. Did she say everything is made from chemicals? Kaja, stay with us. Keep going.
All natural things and all industrial products.
Mm-hmm.
Here are some of my favorite that I would rather not live without. Soap, cement, plastic, washing detergent, toilet paper,
Not toilet paper. Now, Kaja said, look, it stops right here. This is just, you going too goddamn far, Nana. Keep going.
and antibiotics.
What? Not the antibiotics. Not, that shit ain't organic. Oh, goddamn. Keep going.
If someone offers you a single example and wants to draw conclusions about a group, ask for more examples. Or flip it over, i.e., ask whether an opposite example would make you draw the opposite conclusion.
Uh-oh.
If you're happy to conclude that all chemicals are unsafe on the basis of one unsafe chemical, would you be prepared to conclude that all chemicals are safe on the basis of one safe chemical?
Man. Boom. Vaccine phobia. Let's go the opposite direction. We always be dying around 30. Ain't that some shit? I don't believe in these vaccines. Oh, okay. Look at the world before vaccines. Look at the lifespan. How are we for you? And as the population grows, these diseases become more aggressive. And they spread faster because of the large population, we engage and interact with more people. If you go to Las Vegas, you're probably engaging with more people from more countries than you realize. So if it wasn't for vaccines, Las Vegas would be the space of death. I don't trust vaccines. You motherfucking lie. You ain't processed vaccines yet. How you gonna trust some shit? I don't trust soap. What the fuck you talking about? But the reality is that we haven't, a lot of things that we process and think is undermining our ability to take advantage of the world we in. Without vaccines, we would not be here. The number one goal, like I said at the beginning of class, is what? Stay alive. Not be right, not protest, not be rich and not be poor, not be cute, not be ugly. The number one goal is stay the motherfucker alive. And yet when something that was killing people was spreading, you forgot the number one goal. Keep your ass here. Ain't that cold game? He's soft. But he lived, right? He the strongest motherfucker in the room right now. You dead, you the softest motherfucker in the room right now. Promise you. Do you know that you're actually a chemical? If you define what is a chemical, you're a walking chemical. You know that, right? Sit with that, Kaja. Like that organic car smoke you breathe in. Go ahead.
Assume you are not normal and other people are not idiots. To avoid getting your leg crushed in an elevator and other bad mistakes, stay open to the possibility that your experience might not be normal. Be cautious about generalizing from level 4 experiences to the rest of the world, especially if it leads you to the conclusion that other people are idiots.
So first of all these people who articulate their opinion online, this opinion-based culture, they're just doing that right there. Everybody's idiots that don't believe what they believe. This is their overgeneralization. Once again, okay, so can I say this now? Y'all kind of who feel when I say I hate social justice? Can anybody now feel where I'm the fucker? After these 3 or 4 months, can you now start to see why I fucking hate social justice? It's pushing these principles that are blinding. Fucking blinding. And they wrap it in the word good versus bad. Keep going.
If you visit Tunisia, a country where you find people living on every level from 1 to 4, you might come across houses that were half built.
Oh, this is game. Keep going.
Like this one belonging to the Salhi family who live in the capital Tunis,
Mm-hmm.
you might conclude that Tunisians were lazy or disorganized.
You'll find this in Cancun as well. Keep going.
The Salhis and many others living in similar circumstances have found a brilliant way to solve several problems at once.
Come on now, this is brilliant. Keep going.
On levels 2 and 3, families often do not have access to a bank to put their savings and cannot get a loan.
Okay, keep going.
So, to save up, to improve their home, they must pile up money.
Mm-hmm.
Money, though, can be stolen or lose its value through inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So, instead,
So they ain't putting money underneath the mattress. They ain't got no little safety to purchase. They ain't digging a big ass hole. But now watch this. This shit's so cold. So instead,
whenever they can afford them, the Salhis buy actual bricks,
ooh, this is brilliant.
which won't lose their value.
What? A brick doesn't lose value, baby. Come on.
But there is no space inside to store the bricks, and the bricks might get stolen if they are left in a pile outside.
Come on now.
Better to add the bricks to the house as you buy them. Thieves can't steal them. Inflation won't change their value. No one needs to check your credit rating. And over 10 or 15 years, you're slowly building your family a better home.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of assuming that the Salhis are lazy or disorganized, assume that they are smart and ask yourself, how can this be such a smart solution?
So they figured a way to protect their investments and to be able to grow the value, to keep their money aligned with inflation through a smart home solution. And it's so easy to be like, because I remember when I went to Cancun, I was like, why are these structures all unfinished? What the fuck is going on with this? Same thing. They realize this is my investment, dog. If I leave it out the bricks out here, they got me. If I put it in the bank, they got me. If I store it, the inflation's gonna get me. But this is the way I can secure my money. But it's so easy if you're on level 4, see that? To shrink them. Keep going.
Beware of generalizing from one group to another.
Mm-hmm.
I once used to believe and promote a fatally incorrect generalization that cost 60,000 lives.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those lives could have been saved if the public health community had been keener to question its misleading generalizations.
Mm-hmm.
The mother turned toward me with a loaf in her hand.
So so I'll give you the back end story. He saw this woman pushing the baby. And he looked at the baby, what they call the flat thing that you push a baby in? Yeah, the stroller, but the flat stroller, the one with the bassinet. Saw him, the child in the bassinet. And he decided to flip the baby the baby was sleeping on his face, and he decided to reach in there real quick without asking the lady, because he panicked as a doctor in a foreign country, and flipped the baby on his or her back. Start from there. So the mother turns around.
The mother turned toward me with a loaf in her hand, ready to attack.
I'm gonna beat this motherfucker ass.
I quickly explained to her that I was a physician, and I told her about the so-called sudden infant death syndrome and the new public health advice to parents not to put sleeping babies on their backs due to the risk of suffocating from vomiting.
Mm-hmm.
Now her baby was safe. The mother was both scared and comforted. On trembling legs, she continued her shopping. Proudly, I completed my own purchases, unaware of my huge mistake.
Keep going. It's gonna get better.
During the Second World War and the Korean War, doctors and nurses discovered that unconscious soldiers stretchered off the battlefield survived more often if they were laid on their fronts rather than on their backs.
Mm-hmm.
On their backs, they often suffocated on their own vomit. On their fronts, the vomit could exit and their airways remained open. This observation saved many millions of lives, not just soldiers. The recovery position has since become a global best practice, taught in every first aid course on the planet. The rescue workers saving lives after the 2015 earthquake in Nepal had all learned it. But a new discovery can easily be generalized too far.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1960s, the success of the recovery position inspired new public health advice against most traditional practices to put babies to sleep on their tummies. as if any helpless person on their back needed just the same help. The mental clumsiness of a generalization like this is often difficult to spot. The chain of logic seems correct. When seemingly impregnable logic is combined with good intentions, it becomes nearly impossible to spot the generalization error.
Keep going.
Even though the data showed that sudden infant deaths went up, not down, it wasn't until 1985 that a group of pediatricians in Hong Kong actually suggested that the prone position might be the cause. Even then, doctors in Europe didn't pay much attention.
So doctors in Europe, so Europe thinks they're better than America, thinks they're better than Africa, think they're better than Asia. That's European culture. Hong Kong says, hey, I think the reason babies are dying because you got to sleep in the wrong position. But because science, CDC, masks, all these different, because science says, the media, popular culture says, they overgeneralize something that worked for soldiers, that it must work for babies. Assumption was made. And because the person who made the assumption is a professional, we stop thinking for ourselves. Stay with me, keep going.
Unconscious soldiers were dying on their backs when they vomited. Sleeping babies, unlike unconscious soldiers, have fully functioning reflexes and turn to the side if they vomit while on their backs.
Oh, didn't think about that. Keep going.
But on their tummies, maybe some babies are not yet strong enough to tilt their heavy heads to keep their airways open.
Ooh.
The reason the prone position is more dangerous is still not fully understood.
So it's more dangerous to put a child on his stomach than it's on their back. But at the time, popular science, popular pediatricians, everyone was teaching at the time, they let a baby sleep on their stomach, not their back, because they may vomit, and it was stuck, but they didn't realize the baby could turn their head and the vomit would be released. Keep going.
It's difficult to see how the mother in the bread aisle could have realized I was putting her baby at risk.
So he literally put her baby, could have actually killed her baby. Keep going.
She could have asked me for evidence. I would have told her about the unconscious soldiers.
He would have made it sound so articulate. Go ahead.
She could have asked, but dear doctor, is that really a valid generalization? Isn't a sleeping baby very different from an unconscious soldier? Even if she had put this to me, I strongly doubt I would have been able to think it through.
So, mind you, why is this hella powerful? This is probably another powerful point. When you're out here being an entrepreneur, you're pulling on peers and people in the market to gather information to make decisions daily. Many of you will make poor decisions because it will be wrapped by all these tools of professionals, and you will stop thinking. I don't give a fuck who talks to you and who they look and who they are. If Obama comes to you, talks to you about how to become president, you still own the decision making. You have to own all of your decisions. The other day, Shakina and a few people talked to me offline. They was asking me some questions about business. And I said, if I give you the answer to the problem you're asking me, I'm pimping you. And I'm lying to you at the same time. He said, what do you mean? I said, one is that I'm not in your company. When you build a company, it becomes a complex system. Really, really complex. So the only person who really knows it is you. That's your shit. From the outside, I'm assuming what you built. You know what they say, you're sugar and spice and everything nice. I mean, everything in this, even though it looks pretty on the outside, there's a whole bunch of shit in there, but it's working. I come from the outside and look at some external formula, hey, this is what you should do to fix your company. And you go do that shit and you lose everything. You know why you lost everything? It wasn't my fault. You didn't realize the decision was always your responsibility, not mine. So if I'm really going to help you in business, it's not to give you tactile information. Do this, do that, do this, do that. And first of all, the only reason you ask me a question that way, because you still have a worker's mindset. A worker man wants to know, what procedures do I need to do every day to get my job done? Entrepreneur needs to know, how do I get my job done? So what you want to hear from me, so one of the guys said, I'm having a problem raising this kind of, getting my clients and my customers to pay this kind of money. I said, do you understand pricing? He says, no. I said, then go find a book on pricing and take ownership of the answer to your problem. If I give you a tactile solution, you don't know contextually what the alternatives are. You don't know when it does or does not work. You don't know if it even applies to your business. You know nothing. It's like, imagine somebody who understands how cars work. They're engine engineer, and they want to make a car faster. They know exactly where to go and what to move to start playing to make the car perform differently. But let's say you one of those, what they call mechanics that just put the part on. That's your job. You don't really know what it does. You just, hey, you got to put a carburetor on, I put a carburetor on. If that engine needs to move faster, you can't make it go too much faster because you don't know how shit work. You might make it go faster, but you're going to break something else. You blow out the rear end, your car, cause the whole fucking car to twist because you don't understand the science of vehicles. As a business owner, it's your sole responsibility to own your business and understand the knowledge. When you come to another person who's an expert in whatever field they're in, it's help you to process your thoughts, your information, share their history, their experiences, and help you own the decision you got to make for your company. Stop placing the responsibility of your next decision on some savior figure. There's no fucking such thing. And the person who can say, what makes it so dangerous, this is a dangerous role that he was in, he can be quoting an academic theoretical source that has no trial time, no testing in the wild, no practitioner experience. But because he's so or she is so articulate, you adopt it. And God forbid if they wrap it in some type of political discussion. Whatever decision you make in your company, it is your sole responsibility to own. This is why I practice an hour and a half a day so I can own my company and be responsible for my company. If I'm not practicing, I'm asking the world to help me run my shit and then tell the world they racist when I don't grow well. We sound like kids trying to be in an adult world. The difference between a child and an adult world is you are now the God, the adult, the responsible person in charge of your shit. Go ahead.
Eric's about to explode. Oh shit. Yes. God damn, yes. I was thinking about in one of the, I think it might be in the same book where scientists said, hey y'all, all you working women out there, we discovered something that's just as good as breast milk. You don't need to breastfeed anymore. We have the best formula out now. And so scientists said it and scientists agreed. So then you had a whole generation of people who believed them. A whole generation of people who believed them. And that generation grew up and start having these weird diseases and their bodies start breaking down. And they didn't realize that there were things that they couldn't see in a microscope in breast milk that helped the babies be stronger, more efficient, more resilient. And they were like, oops, we fucked up. But all y'all 20, 30 years old, sorry, but your bodies is whack now because we was wrong. Whose fault is it? Like you said, it's your fault. It's because if you're an entrepreneur, you're at the edge of the universe, which means you're in the cutting edge of this universe. So you don't get the luxury to succeed anybody's advice and just blindly run with it. You have to fucking verify everything because if it doesn't go right, it's on you. So I don't give a shit what title you have, PhD, scientist, Bible, pastor, reverend, motherfucking whatever. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to pass it through my filter. I take everything with a grain of salt. Everything. I don't care how big, tall, strong, smart anybody is. It's all with the same grain of salt to run through the filter in order for to see if it works in my world. And you got to do the same. Or like you said, you getting pimped. It's a pimp game.
And it happens there's big ass industries that's pimping people all the time, especially us, who's trying to give us advice. Do you know the whole social justice thing? We went from, if you go back 15 years ago and talk to black folks about black culture challenges and problems, it sounded nothing like social justice. Social justice got sold to us, and no one was even at the gate to filter it out to say, wait a minute, you just call me a people of color? My friend don't call me colored nothing. But instead, you like, now you run on like, as a person of color, BIPOC, that's what it is, something like that shit, right? You identifying with some shit that ain't got shit to do with you because you're letting other people and popular sources drive your thinking, not realizing, I should probably think for my fucking self. I know my community. I know what's happening down here. That shit, Black Lives Matter march, what the fuck I gotta do with this school down the street that's fucking up these kids? Like you're missing the conversation because you've gotten to the point that you're blindly following these ideas and you let other people own your decisions. Then you want to blame the world when the decisions doesn't work. Keep going. There's thousands of babies. There you go. I think it's green. Is it green?
Yep.
Here you go.
Thousands of babies died because of a sweeping generalization, including some during the months when the evidence was already available.
So there was already available. White folks from Europe was like, I don't know if I don't trust you. But mind you, it's already available, but babies are dying still. Keep going.
Sweeping generalizations can easily hide behind good intentions.
Ooh. Read that one. That's a powerhouse point. That's one of them hidden. Like, I didn't sit down with her when she did the slide, but I would have made that slide by itself. Read that last sentence.
Sweeping generalizations can easily hide behind good intentions.
Do you now see how so much shit floods the community through social media? Sweeping generalizations are hidden behind good intentions. This is why you don't even debate and challenge people if they come off too good. TV even frame them so good. You never say, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but that's horrible analysis. You don't question analysis because it's hidden behind. So much shit is wrapped in good intention. You let shit go all the time because it was good intention. At least they meant good. They were doing good. It felt good. What the fuck you saying? Come on.
I can only hope that the baby in the bread aisle survived. And I can only hope that people are willing to learn from this huge public health mistake in modern times. We must all try hard not to generalize across incomparable groups. We must all try hard to discover the hidden sweeping generalizations in our logic.
Stay curious. That phrase right there is a constitutional must for all entrepreneurs. We're always curious. Everywhere we go, anytime I in a new experience, anywhere I go, I'm even watching my daughter staying curious. I'm looking at my daughter all the time, like, I probably study my daughter more than she knows she's being studied right now. I'm curious about everything around me because that's how I am learning. Stay curious. Keep going.
They are very difficult to discover, but when presented with new evidence, we must always be ready to question our previous assumptions. And
So wait a minute. When presented with new evidence, always be ready to question your previous assumptions. Some of you guys are blocking new evidence because it doesn't fit your belief system. So that's why you ain't never changed or never grown or never can get any better, and you feel like you're doomed or like you're stuck in whoever you are. I'm just this person. Your beliefs block your evidence, and now you're stuck. Just like you're like a rerun, just running it back and over like a broken record. Just you keep running those same as evidence over and over because you won't let no new shit in. Keep going.
and reevaluate and admit if we were wrong.
And admit, look, when you're in a conversation, be excited about being wrong. Become excited about being wrong. Stop trying to defend being wrong. I've had motherfuckers argue with me before. They don't know what the fuck they talking about. They just don't want to be wrong. All right, I got a couple things I want to talk about, and then I'm going to open up some questions, and then look at this phrase. Most of life happens in the shadows. Most of business happens in the shadows. Most business are in the shadows. Most of life is in the shadows. I don't think you understand what I'm just saying. If you're observing a company from the outside, you see nothing. If you don't know my books, you don't know my sexual desires, you don't know my interactions, you don't know my incentives, you don't know my emotions, you don't understand my business, you don't understand my life. A long time ago in class, I think it was a year ago, I used to say, accept your dark side. Because your dark side has more control than your light side. Your dark side has more control than your light side. Your attraction to somebody, right now, if the right person texts you and gets you mad, you won't hear another fucking word I say. Your shadows would dictate more of your time usage than your light. When you look at a company, most companies are ran, there's no company in the world that has a strong internal structure. They're all chaotic. They're all loose. They're complex. The more you grow, the more people start having sex. People don't like each other. People start fighting. People start doing drugs. People are stealing. People are building dislikes. They having stories running in their head. All this complexity is landing in large groups of environment. Now, to the outside, they oppose this story of, we're Apple. We run a very professional, efficient company, and we take our bottom line very, very powerful. But behind the scenes, it's some shit. There's unintelligent managers, smart managers. You got some places not cutting a profit, but they won't tell you they're not cutting a profit. So that's why, like most restaurants in New York live on a 20% margin, meaning it only takes a little bit for them to go out of business. So when they say to you, what'd you order? Hey man, you gotta make up your goddamn mind. Oh, they being rude. No, the shadows say they're on their margin line. And their service just went down because the numbers are wrong. Stop judging life on the surface. We've become such a superficial culture. Oh, she's cute. Oh, she's Cardi B. Whatever. She's Kim Kardashian. That hoe and this chick who's fucking low self-esteem, mechanically produced, you put in front of your fucking daughter and you wonder why you don't like who your daughter is. Because you decided to judge them from the surface. The reality is that, they got shadows that's real. And if you can't see the full story, stop trying to be positive for no fucking reason. See people for who they are. That way you know how to navigate in this world. You know what's triggering people. You know if Josh is a cocaine habit person and somebody busts open a thing of baking soda, tell Josh to get out the room. He ain't gonna make it. Get out the room. He ain't gonna make it. Josh gonna fuck around and sniff enough baking soda to fuck his mind up. But you reality know that's when you know the world you live in, when you know people are sleeping with each other. Just stop it. Be adults. There used to be a time that adults wouldn't see rated R, rated X, whatever it is, right? We knew what was happening. But we gotten so corporate in our home communication, we start to look at the world through these fake lenses. Stop letting your uncles hang out with uncle. Like that, y'all talk about the Tiffany. Tiffany had this shit happen. I thought to myself, what's the issue? They were doing a horrible skit. It was a sucky skit. But it's a real fucking problem in our community. A naivety of, I'm gonna let my uncle go over this house with these men. I haven't even vetted the house. I'm gonna go over here and play with this other girl who's probably being molested by the same fucking uncles. The world happens, most of the world happens in the shadows. Most of business. This is why when you say, I've been watching Court Smith's business from the outside. And I think I got his business system down. If you don't know his shadows, you know nothing. Because you have no causation. Remember I said causation over content. Causation over content. Content is the observation of what you see. Causation is why it's there. What is their whys? What's the why around you? The world business happens in the shadows. Become curious about both sides. Stop this trying to be the token of goodness. That you stop seeing, you don't even see your own shadows no more. You got to the point that your shadows control all your decision making and you don't realize it. You're making decisions every day because those shadow energies are talking to you, and then what you're doing is you're confusing the language and turning it, and then you're trying to justify it in some other words, but you're trying to use emotional rationalization. No, I'm there because I really care about the people. I do. I really do. No, you don't. You care about your status. You care about these chicks right here getting with you. You want to sleep with all three of them. You're going to do everything you can. But in the end, no, I just care. The world, I promise, this ain't me talking. At the highest level of business analysis, they tell you most of business is in the shadows. It ain't me. There ain't no none of us old, none of us crying. It's in the shadows. So stop listening to people. Steve Jobs did this and this and this happened and this in the end, this is how it worked out. You need to hear the shadows. Because you can start down the same path and those shadows hit you, you don't have that knowledge. You have all this surface knowledge. It just shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be racist. You shouldn't be homophobic. You shouldn't be sexist. You should not be you should be so much machismo. You shouldn't. I don't understand. That's why I can't build shit. Because it all does exist. Everybody in this room can say we all agree and leave here and all be like, fuck that motherfucker. That's the real shadows. My first year teaching this class, everybody was cheerleaders in the crowd. Oh my God. I thought my name was really Goldie. I'm just dropping. They're like, oh, speak now. I'm like, oh shit, look here. And then whoa. Oh, nada. Right? They leave here, didn't hear shit I said. And they had all different stories. And that's when I had to step that way. When you work with the public, stop becoming fans of your fans. You don't know why they're your fans. I'm giving y'all some of the deepest game in the world. Once you learn to see the shadows, you'll see people who are sitting in front of you, and you start seeing the shadows. You start seeing them wear the shadows. I can look at a man's eye. This is a man thing. I can't look just for women. I can look at a man's eye and tell what shadows he possesses. Some of his shadows. Because men carry our shadows in our eyes the way we use our eyes when we talk to other men. We do it. We do it in our early presentation. We almost display our shadows. But if you don't see those shadows, which some women can't because that's not how you've been trained, you didn't have the kind of men in your life can train you, you'll interpret those shadows, you'll project your meaning into their shadows. Learn, and in business, I promise you, when people do business with you, and they negotiate with you, they want to partner with you, they want to collaborate, they want to give you advice, they want to invest in you, look for their shadows. If you don't look for their shadows, don't blame them. You just too motherfucking Mary Poppin' happy. Stop doing business like you work for Disney. Look for the motherfucking shadows. Oh, no, I don't like when you curse. Oh, okay. You really think that's how the world works, huh? This old surface ass goody good shoe feeling shit. When somebody one day, I remember this one sister told me a long time, no, I don't like when you curse. And later on I found her shadow, she's an alcoholic. Oh, well, let's see which one's worse. I'm keeping it 100. I'm keeping that shit 100. But she was like, no, that cursing is just so unacceptable. It's just no reason you should be cursing. Now she trying to find why she was telling me that she was depressed, barely can get the house drinking alcohol. Hardcore. Addicted to it. Like you just don't know the truth. There's somebody in this room right now chasing somebody who don't want them, getting pimped every day, and you the third chick, fifth chick, the forgot you chick. I need a favorite chick. But you you don't see the shadows because in your mind it's supposed to be this way. No, and it's just no. That's why social justice works, because social justice work says nobody lives in the shadows. You can hate gays and love gays at the same time. You know that, right? Did you know that? You can hate white people and love white people at the same time. You ever had that uncle, I hate them motherfucking white people? Yes, boss. I love Mr. Johnson, though, but I hate them motherfucking white people. So if you one day just happen to speak out of turn, I'm going to just say, you should be this way. Going back to that basketball, the coach, that's what I say, I can't tell who he is. He may be speaking this way, but I'm not sure what is his percentage of how he showed up. What if you get somebody who's more friendly and don't say the wrong things, but he fucks you over and takes more money out your pocket? The shadows are real. Stop looking at life through rose-colored glasses and realize there's shadows. Because guess what? Anybody in this room ever taken a shit before? Right? Has anybody ever thought about inviting me to come smell your shit? No, because it stank, right? Okay. But that's a part of your fucking life, right? I'll bet you nobody in this room want to protest taking a shit for the next month. And if you do, just tell me where you want to be buried. The reality is that you are a walking shadow. But we all want to act like we don't shit, we don't stink. We don't do all the other stuff that goes along that I can keep going. But some of y'all just ain't, some of y'all still ready G, so when y'all wake the fuck up, I can have that conversation. So a lot of times when I'm cursing, I'm really trying to stab at that quit bullshitting, see the world for what it is. And here's the other thing. Shitty may not be, taking a shit is not, I'm using this on purpose. Taking a shit is not preferred. Like nobody wants to come to this class talking about, hey, let me tell you something. The way you wipe your ass is this way. Nobody wants to have that conversation. You know, some of y'all probably need to go over the lessons on how to wipe your ass because you do it all wrong. But the reality is this. It's a part of your real life and it impacts you. It's going to impact the conversation one day. It's going to change the way you sit in this class one day. It's going to change how you show up to that dinner one day. It's going to change your sexual relationship to somebody one day. And if you can't have that conversation at some point or be real with it, it's something that you live with every day that you deny and try to ignore, making you ignorant to its impact it has upon you. So you're going to sit around here and eat this cheesy-ass, spicy-ass pizza with peppers, knowing goddamn well we about to make love in 2 hours. You know you about to fuck up the whole night. Okay, that was funny as fuck to me. I don't know about y'all, that shit was funny. But what I'm saying is that that's the reality of the world we live in. We don't accept the shadows. And the reality is, once, like, could you, like, I don't know anything about Pastor Chris and his knowledge, but you imagine the shadows he has to see every day as a preacher? He got shadows walking through the door in shadow form. That he's trying to help them learn to see some light. so he gets a chance to see shit about people that you would never see. If I took you, if I was somehow capable of taking you with me and just walk through Oakland, I would blow your mind with what people really do and what they really think. You know how many black people in Oakland brag about how they doing business and making money? If you ever look at the shadows, you realize they barely got $2 in the bank. And they about to give you advice about business and coach you. Go ahead.
You know the dope thing about what you're talking about is that when you live in that space, you damn near don't have to read people because people can feel that you won't judge them. So they'll tell you all their shadows.
Oh my God.
Hey, I know, like, you just a person that I could just trust because I know you ain't gonna judge me. And they'll always be like, man, I've never said this to nobody. Because
all the time.
That's what, when you in that space, it's the beauty because now you get to see the world exactly what it is when you ain't judging it.
Court, I had a meeting with one of my old students. A student enrolled me for 3 years. I want to give you no clue. So they sit down with me and they asked me for advice about their business. And they're going over their methodology. I'm like, that don't make no sense. That's where this shit coming from. I said, something's wrong here. And then she just says out the blue, I just need to cut this cocaine habit. It's like I go home, I snort this cocaine, and it just be fucking my thinking up. I said, okay. Thank you, sis. Right? But if you saw her, she would judge every motherfucker in this room and make you feel inferior. I promise you. And will dress the fucking part so cold, you'd be like, oh, that's the queen bee. She's the leader of the room. No, she on cocaine, but she knows how to wear her persona. And so at some point, now if she ever calls me, we have a different conversation. If I even have time to have the conversation. Because your love for cocaine is greater than anything around you. So until you let that bitch go, I can't talk to you. But I promise you, when you learn people's shadows, someone will be talking like she's a queen bee. How many times have we seen women, we was at a retreat, woman bragging about how, I tell men what to do. I got shit on control. And her shadow came out, she was a different human being. Talking about how she gets pimped and men don't want to be with her and just, So that means your position is fake. I knew somebody who was so pro-black, they made pro-black people talk about, goddamn, I'm feeling white around you. They made Malcolm X question his race around them. Couldn't find out their shadow was a white, they was dating a white dude and the white dude dumped them. If you don't know people's shadows, you don't understand where they're coming from, you fucking there join their movement and you're really aligning with their shadow-driven beliefs. Well, businesses do the exact same thing everywhere. Every white business live in the shadows. Most of the stuff that's happening is driving their decisions. When you run a company based on incentives. Incentives is the most powerful tool you have in the company. Incentives are invisible. When you run a company, you run a narrative that drives a lot of decision making. And narratives are invisible. They're in the shadows. Most of business is driven by the shadows. If you don't know that invisible narrative that's driving the decision making, the behavior, the organization, the culture, the way they move, the way they make decisions, rules, laws are in the shadows. I just want y'all to pay attention. Next time you think about the job you worked at, a lot of things that drove everybody outside of what you were supposed to do every day was shadow shit. Some shit happened in the office. You heard this person's about to fire. This person said this about this person, and you feel some kind of work. You either gonna work harder, not work at all, gonna go home early, whatever the fuck it is. It's all shadow-driven stuff. So when you're looking for the obvious examples, you see nothing. NBA. I'm gonna start using NBA a lot because I'm gonna talk about probability in some creative ways. So NBA. So in the NBA, if you ever heard the story about LeBron James is actually one of the smartest players in the NBA. LeBron even says a lot of basketball players don't understand the game of basketball. There's reports that say if you go to LeBron James' house on the weekdays, he's sitting in front of TV studying games. Even in his maturity of his career, he still studies basketball like a science. There's only so many people in the NBA, so many players in the NBA. What's the percentage of people that make it to the NBA court? 0.000, how many zeros? 0.0003 amount of people will actually make it to the NBA. Now, an NBA player knows way more about basketball than a fan does. Let me say this again. An NBA player knows drastically more about basketball than a fan does. But there are way more fans, like a crazy ratio of fans to NBA players. This is again, there are crazy amount of NBA fans compared to players. But a fan would swear up and down they know just as much about the game as a player does. Matter of fact, a fan would swear up and down it knows just as much as a coach, a GM, and a team owner, and there's even less of them. In business, most of you guys are learning about business from the fans, not the players. Let me say again, most of y'all are learning business from the fans, not the players. And the reason that information seems so dominant, because there's so many fanboys. So you think, hey, now that, I don't know what you're talking about. That don't make no sense. I ain't never heard that shit before. There's only so many players that actually talk to the public and sit down and explain shit. Too many of them too busy playing the game and trying to become better in the game. But too many of us are running around quoting knowledge of the fans, having no insight on the reality of the sport. So a fan watches LeBron play 5 games in a row, horrible. And they will say, I judge LeBron for that. A GM understands probability and says, we got to play 85 games. 5 horrible games mean nothing to me. I'm playing the statistics. I'm looking for probabilities. I have a whole different way of looking at the game. A fan will say LeBron is the best player on the team. The NBA player will say, no, John over here is the best player on the team. You say, well, what? I don't never notice John. Yeah, but the only reason I get the shot because of what John does every game, and he does it perfectly, and he never breaks. And the day he breaks, our numbers come down. But that number is not recognized because it's not celebrated by the fandom. So in business, you're only looking at LeBron James in business, and you're studying LeBron James, but you're not studying Shepard sitting over here running that excellent play time and time again. If you're an NBA person, you realize all 5 players are critical to our success. But if you're a fan, you might think 1 or 2 players, or even 3 players, are critical to your success. So, quite often, most of the chatter that surrounds this entrepreneurship is not from players in the game. It's from fans. You guys get a lot of half-assed knowledge, a lot of self-help shit, a lot of the fast-talking people, a lot of the most popular people, they're teaching fan talk. So it sounds very similar to the game. They can point to examples. They can even tell you sometimes when this idea worked over here versus there. They just never played the game. And the problem with fanboys, they give you emotional, imprinted examples. They're not looking at what's the 10-year effect of that. What's the 85 game season effect of that? So you might see Ja Morant. You're like, oh my God, look, you said dunk he did? But the NBA players say, oh, that shit won't make it to the playoffs. What do you mean won't make it to the playoffs? Because they understand that in the playoffs, there's a different level of a game. But fans in love with John Morant. Oh, when he gets with against LeBron older, and he can't jump like John Morant. LeBron's faster. And then again, you're like, what? Wait, what? John Morant must have been sick. How come he didn't dunk? Because it's things you can't see. So just know the most popular information about entrepreneurship or about business ain't coming from business people. It's just not. You listen to fans, but because fans are the large population, you're judging the majority over the minority. And that's why a lot of times when you sit in this class, you're like thinking, this is business class? Yeah, this is real business class, because I'm trying to teach you the way to think to solve your own problems, not the tactical moves where a fanboy gonna get you in here. But okay, so listen, next time you want to make a dunk, this is what you got to do. Okay, first of all, get some sandbags. You gotta start working on your jump and your leap. The cool part, he ain't never been in a fucking NBA day of his life. All right? And then you're gonna work on this tape I gave you. It's called a double crossover. And then you might actually dunk. It's just that you can't dunk in the game. Because you don't know the difference. Because you're listening to a fan, not a player. A player is going to have a whole different group of rules. And even a player can't see what an owner sees. So a player may say, I hate when ESPN be critiquing our game. The owner's like, I love that shit. Because as you guys get into this war and battle, you gain more fans, which means I make more money. And also, basketball is make-believe. It's not real. I somehow convinced you that 10 dudes are going to get on court with a single ball on a hardwood floor. I'm going to put a pole up with a circle in it. I even put a backboard on it. Fuck, I'm going to be nice to y'all. I'm going to convince you that this game is worth billions of dollars. And they're going to run back and forth. I'm going to keep changing the rules. And the owner realized the rules can never stay the same. Why? Because it must align to what the public wants. So if my generation said, hit them in the mouth, well, guess what? In the NBA this year, you can hit them in the mouth. If the next generation says, oh, that's violent, guys, guess what? The new rule of NBA, the guys just told me, no more hitting the mouth. If the next guy says, this game takes so fucking long. Okay, Harden, fuck your fouls, you're fucking up the game, over with. There ain't no real rules. I'm making a make-believe system real to people that I'm going to make billions of dollars off of and continue to grow this industry and continue to change the players that also the success of my team is not based upon any one player. Yeah, you're my hottest player today, but LeBron, when you get older, I'll find me another LeBron. Don't worry about that. Jordan, because I had Jordan before. I had Magic before that. I had Dr. J before that. I had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar before that. And we can keep going back. I got Bill Russell before that. I had Jerry West before that. So I always have these players that I will always turn into a next LeBron James, because at the end of the day, I'm bringing a system that one man can't bring down, because my system is greater than any individual playing in my game. The NBA has more business principles built into it, more probability built into it. All these models we've been working on, you can find all these models in the NBA. When I watch sports, I don't watch it like the typical fanboy. I'm amazed at the science of taking something that's make-believe, of you getting 10 people to get on a court that are apex human beings to rally around a ball and a net and a circle. And somehow I'm gonna get these guys to pay billions of dollars and make you wear their clothes and worship them and even sleep with them if you're the opposite sex or same sex. Oh, shit, who knows what's happening? But the reality is that's what's gonna go down. Y'all don't get how powerful the NBA is. Always remember, the NBA is not real. There ain't no necessary need for the NBA. If the NBA goes away tomorrow, we'll still eat. But there is a psychological value to the NBA. Because you remove the NBA is replacing some of the church responsibilities. Because when we watch sport, we're able to project some of that energy into the game, that if we didn't have the game, we would project it on each other. And historically, the church can actually take a lot of energy and refunnel it in different ways. But without because the churches fail, a lot of times what's keeping a lot of households together is sports. So it has found a need. It's just a need that lurks in the shadows. Because guess what? Business is driven by the shadows. Last point. Next month, this is the book. Write down the name of it. Get this book. This is going to be scaling from this point forward. I'm going to still hit principles and models. This book is going to be how do you grow your business. This is knowledge you need to know from, I'm starting my business tomorrow. What do I need to know? Pick this book over the weekend, read the first couple of chapters. I'm coming back with this heat. This is going to be so much heat. This is like, if you don't, guys haven't noticed, I've been really trying to attack the way you see the world so you can think about business differently. This particular book, I've been priming you to get into this book. It's not difficult reading, but it's shit you never heard before. This is the culture of how to build something. You've been in the work. You've been living your whole life to work in something. I was talking to somebody this weekend, and they told me there was like this person's amazing too. They were telling me about how much their money limitations. So I started going over their money limitations. I said, well, how much did you charge? I was like, that's ridiculous. You can never charge that much money and survive. He said, well, I got two businesses. One business is built around me and what I like to do. One business is built around what I did, but I'm trying to farm it out. And I said, what do you mean a business around you and what you like to do? He says, yeah, this is what I really like to do, and I'm really good at this. I said, oh, so you don't want a business? You want to be self-employed? He says, no, I want a business. I said, here's the number one rule. You're not scalable. You're not scalable. If you can't get other people to do what you want to be done, you can't grow your business. Now, he says, well, how do I know I want to scale it? I said, well, let me ask you a question. Do you want to just be doing this work every day until the one point that you sold your time for little trinkets? Or do you want to be able to gain freedom and time? He says, yeah, I want freedom and time. Then you're going to have to get your ego out the game and stop putting yourself in the equation. Because first they were talking about how what they did was so good and how the customers love what they did. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck that means. Can you get other people to do that? Well, I said, no, turn your ego down. Fuck you. I don't give a fuck if your product drops 10%. How do you get to the point that you move this product efficiency to the market with labor that gets paid well enough to maintain and stay consistent to the point that you can grow this product in the market? Here's the other thing you can't see. Imagine there was a boat sitting here in the harbor, and you say, go to Africa. And you punched in the GPS, and you say, go. It's a strong chance they might not make it. What you forget your role is if you're growing a company is you cannot be a worker. Because that's what happens when you're a worker. Everybody's working really, really hard, but no one's paying attention to where the fuck you're going and what needs to improve and what's no longer working. And everybody's working really, really hard, and you run yourself right off the cliff. What you eventually have to do is get your product outsourced to be sold and produced by somebody else. So if you're on that ship, you got to pay attention. Oh, we got a storm coming up. Oh, shit, we got this kind of impact. This ocean's doing this. Oh, shit, we got this new obstacle in front of us. Oh, shit, there's other boats coming. Oh, shit, there's this wind gust that's coming. All those things are causing you to have to make in real-time decisions. But when you're doing the work every day, you can't see the real-time decisions because you are buried and you're tunneled around the work that's getting done. And you don't realize you're copy and pasting the previous week, not changing anything. So what you're trying to do is, in a world where you should be climbing, you're flatlining. But in a world like in business, if you're flatlining, you're slowly sinking. So as a business owner, you got to create enough space for you to step back and go, why do we still do that? Let's remove this. When the next money comes in, I'm going to buy that. I got to fire you because guess what? You were great when we were here, but right now you're not qualified to get us here, and you're hurting us. But when you're working every day, and me and you laughing together, and I was tired, and you picked it up and carried it to the end for me, I'm like, oh, Kaja, you're so amazing. Oh, my God, Kaja. I wish my life is loyal to you because you was there when I needed you. And then Shabisha, have you ever seen the way Shabisha paints a painting? Oh, my God, she's so good. And you worshiping your employees, not realizing they're already outdated. They're obsolete. Because you're a worker, you have false value, false relationships. You can't see the horizon. You can't navigate the ship. You can't evolve the system for the changes it has to go through as it grows. You can't even prepare yourself for the growth. You don't know what direction you need to go in because you're too busy fucking working. So you can't fall in love with your product so much that every day you in the fucking trenches working with the workers. At some point, you got to get out the trenches, build new relationships, learn the market, make observation calls, look at your business, do alignment analysis, and find out what is it about my business that is not in alignment of where it wants to go. Otherwise, you are almost trapping yourself in a dying market, because all markets die. You see where I'm going with this? So this is critical important. Many of you guys, that's the artist versus the business person. Too many of y'all are in love with what you're producing, and because you're in love with it, you're killing your own business off because no one's manning your ship. And you're too personal with the people you're working with, and now you fall in love with your work efficiency, but you're not paying attention to your market analysis, or your market alignment analysis. So, if you really want to run a business, fuck your title, fuck your name, run your company. Don't make your company make you feel good about yourself. See, when you start attaching yourself to what you do, you use your company to raise your personal value. So this means now you can't receive feedback, because if I give you feedback, I just insulted you. If I say, Marquita, that jam sucked last week, what she suddenly heard was, I sucked last week. But if she's removed from it, what did my manufacturers do? What happened? What do I need to adjust? Because you're making this disconnect. Because you're in the business of doing business. Now, you said, but I still love what I do. I said, so good. So make that shit your hobby. Go home after a long day and go have some fun. But don't make your hobby your business. Because you then become disqualified to run your business. Because the reason your hobby is your business, because now you just created a job for you in the field. But you can't navigate the industry, because the industry never stays the same. It never stays the same. One emotional shift is a drastic impact to the industry. And if you're not watching the emotional changes in the industry, you're just doing the same shit you did the week before, hoping that somehow the gods and somebody will come along and is our kids what I say, be saved. You get where I'm going with this shit? It's real shit. So I'm going to get into some real heavy shit about, hey, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry, you can't wear your logo and just call yourself your company name and think now you're special and valuable. You got to build your business. And building your business is different than building your identity. That's the problem. Understand your business is not your identity. Your business is not the breast you stay on to empower yourself. Grow the fuck up and run the business. And in running the business, you figure out what personality you want your business to have and how do you want to align it to the market it seeks to serve. And here's the thing, when you're running a business, let's say you're running the jam company, and somebody comes along and be like, yo, I had that salt you made last week, and you find out the salt industry is where the power's at. If she's in the business, she'll drop that jam shit so fast and make your head spin. Go to the salt company and then come back and bring the jam as, hey, we come up with a new product as the jam she was working on previously. And because she has so much market share, she used that market share now to grow her jam inside the market share she established through the salt. But if she's doing business, she'll tell the person at this opportunity, I can't do salt. I like fruit and jam and sweet sugar. She might as well say, I like being broke too, and not having a life, and never having any time for myself, and being trapped to do the same shit even when I don't want to do it, and missing all my vacations, and losing my family, and all the other fucked up shit that goes with not having time. That's real talk. Build the systems that will free you up. Most important rule, stay alive. Number 2, wouldn't it be nice to be around to witness the life you have, as opposed to being trapped in front of a computer every day? What point do you realize freedom is the game? Money's just part of the freedom game. When you can say, hey, I'm about to be gone for 2 months, and come back and your company's made a profit, because you build a smart system, as opposed to you leave for a day and you already lost one of your customers. Fire those people. Try to grow your team. But when you're in the trenches, you can't make those decisions because you have too much of a personal relationship with them. When you pull the fuck back, you could be like, let me look at these numbers. Oh, they're not hitting it. They got a degree in what? They qualify in what? Okay, that's cool. But they didn't hit the numbers. Okay, fuck that overgeneralization. Goodbye. Also, you got to move people around. Let's say Shabisha right now is handling mid-management level, but she's actually a jewel for my next stage. In my next stage, she needs to be a director, and my director needs to be gone. Sometimes I can't even hire within because now you guys have brought into a story that I'm no longer holding on to because it's time to go into my next story. So now I start bringing outside people in. You can't see none of that shit when you're on the inside, working next to them. My company was, one of the things I changed recently in my company that was amazing to me, like mind-blowing. My companies would go in and be like, hey, you're doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, and this right. I told my company, if you do that shit one more day, I swear to God. I said, why? How the fuck you know it's wrong? It might be right for them. So from now on, go inside the company, ask them, be curious, and then try to make the system that works for them. And also, too, realize that when you go to give consulting to another company, you're disrupting somebody's company. So sometimes they're not ready to make big steps. They're only ready just to do a little nudge. And then nudge, give them advice for what they're willing to handle and leave the rest the fuck alone. But trying to give them this big direction, all the fuck you doing is disconnecting from our clients because you represent fear. Because when you come around, you create fear because you're disrupting something that makes them comfortable. But what I seen that if I work next to them, I've been having these internal offices like, yeah, they don't get it. We hella smart. They don't see where we coming from. We know more than them about marketing. Do we? Do we really? Right? This is what stepping back allows you to do, is analyze your product, analyze your market, and develop market alignment analysis. Test ideas, change people around on your staff. And it's never personal. It's close to 0.000, I'm adding some zeros to it, 0 point whatever, chance that the people who start with you will finish with you. Now if you're growing something, because you will outgrow the staff you have. Don't let the past or the great victories you guys won together mean that they qualify to go to the next level. Even if they stay, they're going to shrink their positions. You're going to have to put somebody above them because their thinking is just not good enough. A lot of times when you first start a company, you're loosey-goosey because you're driving creativity. Break it, let's fix it on the back end. The more money come in, you become conservative because now you got more to lose. One small mistake can cost you billions of dollars. Where in the past, one small mistake was just a discussion. So now you have to be 10 times more conservative. That's why if you go to Microsoft when it first started, it probably was just as earthly. Motherfuckers walking around with sandals. Go to Microsoft today. You'd be like, God damn, they're conservative. Because they're they're one of the number one players in the game. It's different. You can't compare them to a new .com who's riding bicycles between appointments and shit and talking in, I'm going to use my fake voice to talk to you. Oh, that's so funny. Right? That's cute because you're small. Get bigger. And they start looking at the book, you realize, we spend how much on motherfucking mouth talking pieces? If you don't cut that shit out, you don't understand these venture motherfuckers invest in this company. We got shit to lose. We spent $10 million on that shit. Oh, y'all better fix that. You better tell the motherfuckers to imitate ventriloquist or something in this motherfucker. The reality is that life changes as you grow. So we got a lot we're gonna cover in this book. It's gonna be so. I didn't even scratch it at all. Matter of fact, I blew the dust off. When we get to this book for real, y'all gonna be like, holy shit. But I'm teaching you now how to take a small idea, and not just for business. I'm talking about at your church. If you wanna go to your church, if you wanna grow your PTA, if you wanna grow your school, if you wanna grow your nonprofit, if you wanna just grow your family reunion, this book is gonna be the shit for you. It's the same principles. Scaling is scaling. Doesn't matter what you scale. I'm gonna leave that alone because I kind of told a joke. The only court would have got. Anyway, put this. All right. With that being said, as they say in what do they say in Jerusalem? Mazel tov. What is it? Give me something else. I'm gonna try to question your Jewish background. I don't know. I'm gonna get some real Jew friends and try to talk to them. I don't know about you anymore. All right. As they say in these slogans, I'll see you motherfuckers later. Have a good night. Peace.